Chapter 28. The young princess was very unlucky. Compared to the duke's reaction, Xia Jingyu sympathized with that person. That person obviously had good intentions, wanting to save the young princess. Without him, the young princess might have died from the poison. In short, kindness outweighed wrongdoing. The duke had made such a big fuss, searching the entire city for the person, and was indeed too angry. But thinking about it, if it was any other father, knowing that his daughter's private breasts were being sucked by another man, how could he not be angry? Thinking back to what happened to her in the Twilight Mountains, Xia Jingyu secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, during her time of crisis, there was a righteous person who saved her, a righteous person who did not take advantage of her while she was unconscious. She was extremely lucky. Creak, my niece, the news has been found. At this moment, a handsome middle-aged man pushed open the door, smiling warmly. Xia Jingyu was excited. Uncle, have you really found my benefactor? The middle-aged man was the duke, nodding. Yes, a flaming lion's tooth appeared in the market today. Track it down, and in less than 2 days we will find out who sold it. Xia Jingyu was excited. She just wanted to find her benefactor and thank him in person. Without his help, her fate would have been unpredictable. Although that person was masked, Xia Jingyu was intelligent. She deduced that the 3 explosions were very similar to the flaming lion's tooth. She did not expect to find a clue. The Duke of Xianyu secretly sighed. Xia Jingyu's benefactor had been found so quickly, but there was no trace of the man who had violated his daughter. My niece, do not be excited. Even with the flaming lion's tooth, the person may not be the person you are looking for. He may covet your beauty or wealth, and pretend to be your benefactor. You have to be careful. The Duke of Xianyu was experienced. Do you have any other items that you can use to confront him in court, so that you do not fall for his trick? Xia Jingyu hesitated, then took out the fire dragon snakeskin armor. This is the only item that I have. It was left behind by that righteous person. The Duke of Xianyu's smiling face slightly froze. The young princess was simple-minded and did not notice. She wrinkled her nose and muttered, "Who made this armor? It looks so ugly." The Duke of Xianyu hid his strange expression and his eyes shone. "Can you let me show it to the servants and let them search for it? Maybe there will be some clues." Xia Jingyu readily agreed. One of the servants was secretly instructed to take the leather armor back and compare it with the fire dragon snakeskin that was confiscated that day. Then, his expression changed drastically as he ran back to report. "Royal Prince, it's from the same snakeskin." The servant's face was filled with excitement. The regional king's mansion had spent a whole month trying to capture this person, and now they finally had a lead. Although the servants didn't understand why the royal prince and the young princess were so determined to catch this person, they knew that he must have committed a heinous crime. The regional king's eyes burned with rage. "Send the order. All black armored guards, go all out to find the source of the blazing lion." Yes. Rumble. A large group of black armored guards rushed out of the regional king's mansion and searched the entire city with a murderous aura. 2 days later, Su Yu, who had no idea that a disaster was about to befall him, let out a long roar. "Ha ha! I've finally succeeded!" Su Yu's purple robe fluttered and his black hair danced. His powerful aura rumbled in all directions. The maids who were cleaning the courtyard were shivering. Under this kind of aura, it was difficult to suppress the feeling of fear and trepidation. Level 4 of the martial path. After consuming the jade fire marrow, he had finally succeeded. But the biggest gain was that Su Yu had finally gained some understanding of the Elder's finger in the mural. For 2 whole days, his body was training while his mind was trying to comprehend the finger. His 2 days were equivalent to 40 days for others. Even if it was a heavenly book, Su Yu could still comprehend a thing or two. Although he had not been able to use it and had only comprehended it, he believed that once he successfully used it, its power would be unparalleled. Secondly, He had comprehended Tempest to stage 2 top class. Now, a casual kick of his foot could bring out a wisp of white cold mist. The cold air was oppressive. In close combat, he would be successful. Finally, as a lightness cultivation technique, Cloud Shadow was completely at top class. He had comprehended the entire cultivation technique thoroughly. His speed had reached the peak of level 4, approaching the realm of level 5. As a level 4 of the martial path, his body had condensed its first wisp of vital energy. Using vital energy to display various techniques, its power rose to another level. Clang, clang, clang. The distant sound of the bell swayed in the morning light. The call for the gold assessment had finally begun. Compared to the silver assessment, the gold assessment was the true grand occasion of the Martial Arts Training Institute. 100 gold students represented the overall strength of the Martial Arts Training Institute. On this day, not only would the deputy housemaster, Housemaster Yi, come, the elusive first housemaster, a level 7 of the martial path, would also come. Hearing the sound of the bell, both the gold and silver students headed towards the arena. Su Yu stood up, his purple cloud dustproof robe fluttering in the wind. His starry eyes shone brilliantly. Qin Feng, I Su Yu am coming. The arena was still the same arena used for the silver assessment. But this time, not everyone could enter. Those who are not in the top 100 silver ranks are not allowed to enter. At the entrance of the arena, 2 powerful guards at the 4th level of the martial Dao indifferently announced the rules. It had been the same in the past. Other than disappointment, the silver students were not satisfied. The silver students in the top 100 proudly displayed their student tags and entered. Su Yu leisurely walked over. His luxurious aura and handsome appearance, which made him look like a celestial being from a painting, shocked everyone. The crowd made way for him, extremely curious. Who are you? The 2 powerful guards berated. Su Yu took out his token and flashed it in front of the 2 guards, then floated in. The 2 guards could not stop him in time. Did you see who that was? If my eyes are not playing tricks on me, isn't that? The 2 did not continue, unable to believe what they had just seen. The Silver King, Su Yu, looked like that? Didn't they hear that he was just a poor student? The 2 of them looked at each other as if they had seen a ghost. The silver students outside were all surprised. I say, who is that man in purple? I saw his silver student tag in his hand. I saw it too, but among the silver students, do we have such a handsome and outstanding person? The crowd looked at each other. Su Yu entered. The arena was very spacious, enough for 10,000 people to watch, but only 200 were allowed. 100 silver students and 100 gold students. Su Yu arrived late. They were all gathered near the center of the arena, occupying the most front positions. The competition had not yet begun. Only the referee and the gold students preparing for the competition were present. The higher-ups of the school had not arrived yet. Coincidentally, the referee for the competition was still Jiang Zhisher. A level 4 peak, extremely frightening strength. Thinking back to the day when he had fought for the Silver King title, he had taken the opportunity to injure Su Yu. Su Yu remembered this. Old thing, I, Su Yu, have never forgotten this grudge. Su Yu's eyes flashed coldly. Jiang Zhisher scanned the crowd, confirming that the students were all present. After the gold assessment, the silver students have the right to challenge the corresponding gold students, and the gold students can also challenge the corresponding silver students, Jiang Zhisher said coldly. For example, this year's Gold King can challenge this year's Silver King, and vice versa. Jiang Zhisher stepped on a certain part of the arena, as if there was a mechanism. Creak, creak. The ground rumbled, and 3 5-meter-tall stone pillars rose from the ground, standing among the audience. Standing on the stone pillars, one could overlook any corner of the arena. It was the most convenient place to watch the battles. Among the students present, the 3 strongest will get one. The winner will have the priority to challenge the opponent. This meant that as long as one could get one of the 3 seats, after the gold assessment was over, the people above would have the priority to challenge the opponent. If Su Yu could get one of the seats, he could challenge Qin Feng first instead of waiting to be challenged. The stronger ones will get it. Let the fight begin. Jiang Zhisher gave the order. None of the silver students dared to move. They only looked at the 100 gold students with envy. Su Yu's eyes were like lightning. His purple robe and black hair danced in the wind, leaving behind a trail of purple shadows in the crowd. Hiss! So fast, who is the purple-robed man? Look! Who is that purple-robed man? Bang! Wherever Su Yu passed, the crowd was sent flying. Shocked, angry, and thunderous roars filled the air. His speed was comparable to a level 4 peak, unparalleled. Swoosh, swoosh. His purple robe blazed, and he was the first to rush up the stone pillar and occupy a throne. Which son of a bitch is blind and wants to steal my things? A burly youth with a ferocious face raised his head and scolded. Below the stone pillar where Su Yu was, there was a chorus of angry curses. One by one, they climbed up, wanting to compete with Su Yu. Get lost. Su Yu's nostrils flared, and the powerful level 4 energy came crashing down. Level 4? The burly youth, who was cursing, sucked in a breath of cold air. He was the 5th gold student, a level 3 peak, but he understood that in the eyes of a level 4, he was not worth mentioning. Below the stone pillar where Su Yu was, there was complete silence. Level 4. It was actually level 4. Who is he? Among the gold students, besides Qin Feng and Fang Qingzhou, there is a 3rd level 4 expert? And have you seen him? Is he a student of our academy? Why have I never seen him? Powerful and terrifying strength, handsome as a deity, noble and calm temperament. Why had they never heard of such an elite person? Among the silver students, many looked at each other. They all felt that this purple-robed gold student was very familiar, but could not remember who he was. Jiang Xueqing sat among the silver students, her slender jade-like hands supporting her chin, her eyes staring blankly at the ground. Sometimes giggling, sometimes shy, sometimes distressed. Since the day before yesterday, there had been a lingering purple-robed figure in her mind. She would never be able to forget that pair of eyes that were as bright as the stars. Hey, can I see him again? Even if it's just to say thank you in person. Jiang Xueqing sighed softly. Hearing the commotion around her, Jiang Xueqing's eyebrows slightly curved, and she looked in the direction they were pointing. A familiar purple-robed figure came into view. He was tall, elegant, and handsome like a celestial being in a painting. What left the deepest impression on her was his eyes, which were as deep as the stars. It's the purple-robed man. Jiang Xueqing covered her mouth, her beautiful eyes shining with excitement. It's him. It's really him. In the past 2 days, she had often hoped to see him again, and had even come to the dormitory several times. Unfortunately, her wish had never come true. Chapter 29. At this moment, she only wanted to know the name of the man she had fallen in love with for the first time. Somewhere in the arena there were 3 special existences. Xia Jingyu, the silver-haired youth, and the thick-browed youth sat quietly in a corner. Senior Jingyu, who is that purple-robed youth? There was actually someone at the 4th heaven of the martial path? Why hadn't I heard of it? I should have seen the top 10 gold students. The thick-browed youth looked puzzled. Xia Jingyu's fairy-like face was filled with confusion. That's strange, I've never seen him either. I'm sure there's no such person among the gold students. For some reason, Xia Jingyu felt that she had seen the purple-robed youth before. But when he compared all the young masters he knew in his mind, none of them were similar. The silver-haired youth's cold face was filled with contempt. Still a piece of trash. The appearance of the purple-robed youth caused a commotion. None of the people present recognized him. All of them were baffled by this. Some even suspected that he had snuck in from outside the institute. What kind of playboy is he? He's so handsome. A candid girl stared straight at Suyu. "I'm so embarrassed." A shy girl did not dare to look directly at him, only daring to sneak a peek. Unparalleled strength, handsome face, and noble temperament were enough to make the hearts of young girls flutter. Thud, thud, two light sounds came from beside Suyu. Qin Feng and Fang Qingzhou, who were slightly slower than Suyu, had arrived at their own stone pillars. The two of them were the strongest people present, and naturally no one could compete with them. 3 strong people had appeared, occupying 3 thrones. Qin Feng's pupils constricted, a hint of hostility looming in his eyes. How could he not know why Jiang Xueqing had been so distracted for the past 2 days? She had been thinking about this mysterious purple-robed youth day and night. "I am Qin Feng, may I know your name?" Qin Feng cupped his fists, his demeanor polite. The other party was a powerful level 4 martial artist. Suyu looked straight ahead, sat down cross-legged and calmly said, "Your old friend." "My old friend?" Qin Feng could not recall that among the nobles he had befriended, there was someone with such talent, appearance, and temperament who did not lose to him. Fang Qingzhou was puzzled. He looked Suyu up and down and said suspiciously, "I've never seen you before. Are you someone from outside the institute?" Suyu did not reply. He had witnessed Fang Qingzhou's despicable behavior in the underground relic with his own eyes. He did not even want to dirty himself by saying a single word to such a person. "Humph! How dare you be so arrogant in front of this young master? Fine. When the competition is over, please come on stage and see how good you are." Fang Qingzhou glared at him. His gaze subconsciously drifted to a certain corner and paused for a moment on a beautiful, picturesque figure. A trace of pity flashed in his eyes, followed by great hatred. "Don't let me find out who ruined my plans." Clenching his fists, Fang Qingzhou's anger flashed. If he hadn't appeared out of nowhere and saved Xia Jingyu, he would have gotten his hands on her, even a corpse would do. Jiang Zhisher looked at Suyu suspiciously. He faintly felt that Suyu looked familiar, but he could not put a finger on him. Rumble! A clamor came from the entrance of the arena. Under the respectful gazes of many students, teachers, and administrators, the 3 mighty men slowly entered the arena. One of them was Housemaster Yi, in charge of punishment. Suyu owed him a favor. But among the 3, Housemaster Yi walked at the back, his expression solemn and dignified as he cautiously followed the man in front of him. It was a gentle and elegant man with dashing eyebrows and starry eyes. He wore a long white robe, his black hair flying in the wind. Although he had a scholarly temperament, he had a natural dignity. He was the housemaster of the Martial Arts Training Institute of the Xianyu Prefecture, Xia Linxian. His abilities had reached the frightening level 7 of the martial path. He was the legend of the Xianyu Prefecture, invincible. The students who were staring at him were filled with admiration. Xia Linxian, the strongest legend of the Xianyu Prefecture, the lifelong goal of countless students. But Xia Linxian was not the one walking at the front. Walking at the front was a handsome middle-aged man, his eyes long and narrow, filled with a cold glint. An invisible arrogance surrounded him. Even someone as strong as Xia Linxian was not worth mentioning in his eyes. His face was shockingly similar to Fang Qingzhou's. On the 3 stone pillars, Fang Qingzhou's face was filled with joy. Qin Feng's face was filled with awe. He, who had always been arrogant, did not even dare to breathe. The 3 of them took their seat. Fang Qingzhou's father, Fang Yun, sat in the middle of the VIP seat. The housemaster, Xia Linxian, and the deputy housemaster, Yi Xian, sat on either side. Suyu's eyes lit up. Is that Fang Qingzhou's father? Or is it his uncle? Where did he come from, to have such a high status? His experience was limited to the Xianyu Prefecture. In Suyu's eyes, the Xianyu Prefecture was vast and filled with geniuses. The strongest legend was the housemaster of the Training Institute, rumored to be the strongest person in the Xianyu Prefecture, Xia Linxian. But after meeting Fang Yun, Su Yu knew that there was a wider world out there. Xia Linxian nodded at Jiang Zhisher. Jiang Zhisher was full of energy, his expression solemn as he solemnly announced, "The gold assessment officially begins." Similar to the silver assessment, all the gold students were divided into 10 groups according to their student numbers. The 10 strongest students would then compete for a ranking, and the final competition would be for the honor of the Gold King. A month ago, Su Yu would have been indescribably excited about the Gold Top 100 competition. Now that his horizons had been broadened, he had lost interest. 3 hours later, the Top 100 competition ended, and the Top 10 were born. On the rostrum, Xia Linxian was gentle and refined. "Inspector Fang, how are the abilities of this year's gold students?" Fang Yun did not even lift his eyelids, looking arrogant. His eyes swept over the remaining 10 people, and finally landed on his son, Fang Qingzhou, before revealing a slight smile. "Not bad." Xia Linxian smiled lightly. Yi Xian secretly heaved a sigh of relief. "We have successfully passed this year." Yi Xian thought to himself. Fang Yun was from the sanctuary, and his duty was to supervise the teaching of the Martial Arts Training Institute in the Xianyu Prefecture. If the talents and abilities of this year's students were too poor, he had the authority to replace the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Punishment Institute. Although Fang Yun was only at level 7 of the martial path, comparable to the housemaster, but Fang Yun came from the sanctuary, and was supervising on behalf of the sanctuary. With such authority, how could the housemaster compare? In the eyes of ordinary people, the Martial Arts Training Institute was a gathering of geniuses, a transcendent existence above the imperial power. But few people knew that the Martial Arts Training Institute was just a branch of the sanctuary. The master of the sanctuary, the Holy King, devoted himself to nurturing the world's heroes. Therefore, martial arts training institutes were set up in each of the 13 prefectures of the Fenglin Empire. He also sent 13 inspectors to monitor the teaching progress of the institute, and if there was any slack, severe punishment would be meted out. There was once a higher-up of the Martial Arts Training Institute who misappropriated the resources given to the students for his own use, delaying the training of an entire generation of students. When the inspectors found out, everyone from the housemaster to the deacons were executed on the spot. Inspector Fang, in theory, had the authority to execute all of the higher-ups, because he represented the sanctuary. This time, Fang Yun was also here to monitor the abilities of this year's students. Hearing that Fang Yun was satisfied, the crowd secretly heaved a sigh of relief. This year's work was considered a success. The top 10 competition began. The strongest performers were Fang Qingzhou and Qin Feng. With the terrifying strength of a level 4 of the martial path, they defeated their opponents in 3 moves. The two advanced triumphantly, and finally entered the semifinals. Fang Qingzhou fought against the 6th strongest gold-ranked fighter. Consecutive 8 trigram fingers. Fang Qingzhou growled, displaying a set of top-notch medium-level technique. Clap, clap, clap. In just 3 moves, the opponent vomited blood and was defeated. Xia Linxian had a look of admiration. Consecutive 8 trigram fingers is a top-notch medium-level technique, extremely powerful, and requires an extremely high level of comprehension to be able to comprehend it. Your son was able to cultivate it to the 2nd level, which shows how strong his comprehension is. Fang Yun had a proud look on his face, deeply proud of his son. On the surface, he pretended to be humble and shook his head slightly. Qingzhou's temperament is not good. It will be difficult for him to achieve great things. Amidst the admiration of countless young girls, Fang Qingzhou elegantly returned to the stone pillar, throwing a provocative look at Qin Feng. Hee, Qin Feng. I heard that you want to win the Gold King title? Let me see how much you're worth. Don't embarrass yourself in front of your fox fairy girlfriend. Speaking of Jiang Xueqing, Fang Qingzhou could not help but look back at her in the crowd, a hint of passion flashing in his eyes. This was one of the three beauties who was as beautiful as a fox fairy, and he had thought of stealing her, but Qin Feng had beaten him to it. The other party was the son of Duke Qin, and he could not offend him too deeply, so he let it go. Qin Feng smiled stiffly. He did not dare to talk back to Fang Qingzhou's strange sarcasm. His father Fang Yun's background was too great, and the entire Qin family might not be able to compare to him. The word saint decided everything. Qin Feng flew to the arena. His popularity was also very high, and there were many cheering for him. He was talented, powerful, handsome, and had an illustrious family background. Qin Feng had all the qualifications to be a girl's dream lover. Jiang Xueqing was one of the few who did not look at him. Since the appearance of the purple-robed man, she had not looked away. Although she was a realistic person, she was still a young girl. It was fine if she did not fall in love, but if she did, it would seep deep into her bones. Qin Feng's expression was solemn. His opponent was the fifth-ranked gold student, and also the gold student who had fought with Su Yu for the stone pillar. Great Monument Buddha's palm. Qin Feng growled. The wind from his palm was swift and fierce, causing a series of weak explosions in the air. Bang! His opponent was sent flying to the ground with one palm strike, spitting blood and fainting. Xiao Linxian was shocked. Qin Feng's strength has improved tremendously. He has actually broken through to level 4 upper tier. The Great Monument Buddha's palm is not a secret technique of our training institute. It should have been obtained by the Qin family. It is also a top-notch medium-level technique with great power. For him to cultivate it to stage 2 top class, his level of comprehension is also quite high. Xiao Linshuan's eyes flickered. In fact, to save Fang Yun's face, he had said less. In terms of power, the Great Monument Buddha's palm was comparable to the consecutive 8 trigrams finger. But techniques were mutually reinforcing and restraining. The Buddha's palm slightly restrained the 8 trigrams finger. At the same level, Qin Feng was slightly stronger. Fang Yun's brows slightly creased, but he did not comment. Su Yu's pupils shrank. Qin Feng had actually reached level 4 upper tier, comparable to Fang Qingzhou. After a long time, Su Yu's face showed a strong desire to fight. It would be more meaningful to defeat Qin Feng. No matter how strong Qin Feng was, he, Su Yu, would eventually catch up to him. The gold assessment had finally entered its final segment. Chapter 30. With a serious expression, Fang Qingzhou flew down and looked Qin Feng up and down. His contempt was gone. I didn't expect you to have a breakthrough. Your strength has improved a lot. Qin Feng glanced at the fox-like Jiang Xueqing in the crowd with a determined look. Because he had promised to marry her in the name of the Gold King. To achieve this goal, he had trained hard for a month and finally gained something. Qin Feng nodded and struck a pose. Make your move, Brother Fang. This year's Golden King is mine. You are not worthy, Fang Qingzhou shouted. How could he allow an outsider to snatch what belonged to him? Consecutive 8 trigram fingers. Fang Qingzhou moved like a shadow and quickly approached Qin Feng. His fingers flew like a dragon, following the trajectory of the 8 trigrams. It changed unpredictably and intersected with reality, and it contained extraordinary might that was difficult to fathom. Qin Feng looked serious. Great Monument Buddha's palm. The wind from the palm was fierce, and there were frequent explosions. Gusts of wind curled around the palm, like a breath of anger, waiting to be released. Bang! A palm and a finger collided. Both of them took a step back. It was a draw. Fang Qingzhou said sternly, I am the Golden King, who dares to compete? The overbearing and arrogant roar made Xiao Linxian frown. Relying on his father's prestige, this boy was rude, arrogant, and despicable, threatening his opponent not to win. How despicable! Unfortunately, Qin Feng was not an ordinary civilian, but a minor duke. The stronger one gets it. If you want to protect the Golden King, you have to beat me first. Qin Feng was fearless as he charged forward. Fang Qingzhou was angry and anxious as he tangled with Qin Fun. Bang, crack, rumble, the two were evenly matched. After 70 or 80 rounds, there was no clear winner. Fang Qingzhou's face gradually became anxious as he roared. Unfortunately, Qin Fun was not moved. In terms of status, he did not need to be afraid of Fang Qingzhou. As time passed, Fang Qingzhou was gradually at a disadvantage. When the finger technique clashed with the firm and fierce palm technique, there was a slight effect of being restrained. In addition, he was impatient, so it was obvious that he was going to lose. Boom! Qin Fun seized the opportunity and struck an empty space with his palm. His palm imprinted itself on the opponent's chest. Fang Qingzhou cried out in pain as he flew backward and landed outside the ring. He, the previous Gold King, was completely defeated. Fang Yun's eyes flashed with a hint of coldness, but due to his status and face, he couldn't make a move. Trash. After that, Fang Yun turned to Xiao Linxian and said, "This batch of students has been nurtured well." When he finished speaking, he slowly got up and prepared to leave. Xiao Linxian smiled gently and said, "Why don't you leave after watching it? There's also a competition to liven things up." Pausing for a moment, Fang Yun raised his butt and sat down, casually looking at the ring. Jiang Deacon had a smile on his face as he placed the golden crown on Qin Feng's head. "Congratulations." Qin Feng was exhausted. He took a few deep breaths and looked at Jiang Xueqing excitedly. He had obtained the Golden King. However, Qin Feng's smile froze. At the most glorious moment of his life, the woman he loved did not pay any attention to him. Instead, she was staring at the mysterious man in purple. Qin Feng was furious, and he shot a furious glare at Su Yu. "Referee, the Gold King has the right to challenge someone, right?" Qin Feng's eyes were filled with hatred as he stared at Su Yu. No matter who the man in purple was, anyone who stole his woman was an enemy. As for that trash Su Yu, he could temporarily put him aside. He could challenge him a second time later. Jiang Deacon nodded. "All right then. I want to challenge him." Qin Feng was filled with fighting spirit as he pointed at the man in purple standing on the stone pillar. Wow, the crowd was in an uproar. This mysterious man in purple was unimaginable. His identity was shrouded in mystery. No one would have thought that the first person the junior duke wanted to challenge would be him. Jiang Deacon was also puzzled. This person looked familiar, but he did not know who he was. Su Yu slowly opened his eyes that were as deep as the starry sky. He looked down at Qin Feng and said calmly, "Rest well before you challenge him. Otherwise, you will have an unfair advantage." Qin Feng was in a state of exhaustion, and his strength was less than 70% of his normal level. "You don't have to worry." Qin Feng's fighting spirit was ignited. Only by defeating him in front of Jiang Xueqing would he be able to vent his anger. He took out a precious elixir from his robes and swallowed it. His exhaustion disappeared, and his physical strength and vital energy quickly recovered. As expected of the junior duke, he ate a vitality-replenishing elixir that cost 1,000 taels of silver. Qin Feng's eyes were filled with anger. "Fight me!" Su Yu's purple robe and black hair fluttered in the wind. His handsome face glowed, and a wispy voice floated from his mouth. "I have waited for this day for too long." Whoosh! The purple shadow was like the wind, like the shadow of a white cloud. It was elegant and free, like duckweed floating on the waves of a river. Xiao Linxian had a curious expression. Stage 3 top class of cloud shadow? Other than the 10 great demon students with extremely high levels of comprehension, who else could cultivate it? Yixian, who is this person? His cultivation base is at level 4 lower tier. Why have I not heard of him? Yixian had a blank expression. He looks familiar, but I do not know who he is. A hint of surprise appeared on Xiao Linxuan's face, and he could not help but laugh. Interesting, this battle does not seem to be as simple as adding to the fun. As he glided across the arena, Su Yu stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His deep eyes were extremely calm. Jiang Zhisher could not see through the noble young master in front of him, and said politely, "If you are not willing to accept the challenge, you can choose not to fight. He is the Gold King, he can only challenge the Silver King." Su Yu calmly waved his hand. "I have waited for this battle for too long, how can I not fight? Alright. The Gold King challenges the purple-robed man. Let the duel begin." Jiang Zhisher had forgotten to ask for his opponent's name. Qin Feng looked at Jiang Xueqing coldly. Her gaze was still focused on him, and her eyes were filled with anticipation for the purple-robed man's victory. Qin Feng was furious, and he had the intention to kill. He was her boyfriend, but she was cheering for an outsider. Great Tablet Buddha's palm. Qin Feng attacked furiously, his vital energy and physical strength pushed to the extreme. The shadow of his palm was like the wind, swallowing and spitting out powerful energy. Su Yu's expression was calm. He did not move, but when he did, his purple robe was like a shadow. Tempest. As he lifted his leg, a cold wind blew. A white mist of cold energy suddenly appeared, surrounding the leg technique. It swept forward with the force of the cold. Crash. Qin Feng retreated 3 meters. Su Yu retreated 2.5 meters. Hiss. Qin Feng sucked in a breath of cold air. He hurriedly shook off his ice-covered palms with a shocked expression. "You've cultivated Tempest?" Qin Feng could not believe it. The famous leg technique on the second level of the Depository of Scriptures was extremely difficult to comprehend. It could be said that it was the most difficult technique to cultivate on the second level. Many people had their eyes on it, including Qin Feng. However, not a single one of them succeeded. The purple-robed man's successful cultivation was shocking. Xia Linchuan's eyes glowed. "Yi Xian, check if he is from the Training Institute." At such a young age, he managed to comprehend Tempest to stage 2 top class. With his level of comprehension, it would not be an exaggeration to say that he is a demon. Yi Xian nodded his head, his eyes glowing. Su Yu smiled without saying a word. He closed in on him, ready to fight. Crash, the two figures intertwined, rising and falling. Rumble, sometimes the wind from his palm was sharp, sometimes the shadow of his leg was cold. The two were different, and Su Yu was overwhelmed. Unknowingly, the audience stood up, gasping in amazement. Looking at the terrifying purple-robed man, they could not understand why the Training Institute had such a strong martial artist. A cup of tea's time passed. The two were still fighting, exchanging no less than 30 blows. Jiang Zhisher was secretly surprised. He was a level 4 peak, but the battle power of the two was close to that of a level 4 peak. Jiang Xueqing's beautiful eyes flickered, her breathing rapid, her breasts rising and falling. Her beautiful eyes followed the purple shadow. She clenched her fists, her heart pounding. Too strong. He was evenly matched with Qin Feng. Good. 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 To think that there is such a hidden student in our training institute. Xia Linxian was overjoyed, his eyes smiling. In the corner of the viewing platform, the 3 celestial beings watched with interest. That's strange, who is that purple-robed man? The teenager with thick eyebrows and big eyes was about to scratch his scalp. His heart was itching. Tempest is a leg technique that is no less difficult to comprehend than a top-class technique. He actually managed to successfully cultivate it. This person's comprehension and aptitude are not inferior to us, the top 10 monsters. Who can tell me where did this kid come from? The celestial being's beautiful eyes were overflowing with color. She looked at her happy father, feeling gratified. Her father would only be happy if there was another talent in the Training Institute, and she would also be gratified by her father's happiness. The silver-haired youth slightly frowned, his nostrils flaring. Nothing great. In my hands you are just a piece of trash. On the arena. Pankacha. As time passed, the difference between the two gradually became clear. Qin Feng gradually could not hold on, his entire body covered in frost. His eyebrows, hair, arms, and face were pale. I will not lose," Qin Feng roared, using all of his vital energy and physical strength. He also used all of his 18 supplementary techniques. As for Su Yu, his expression was calm, like the water of an autumn lake, without any ripples. From beginning to end, Su Yu only used Tempest, not any other technique. Rumble. Finally, Qin Feng could no longer keep up with Su Yu's leg technique. He was kicked in the face, flying out of the arena, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Qin Feng had been defeated. After 50 rounds, he had finally been defeated. The new Gold King had lost his first battle. Su Yu calmed his chaotic breathing, walking to the edge of the arena with his hands behind his back. He looked down at Qin Feng, whose mouth was covered in blood. "You are too weak. You disappoint me," Su Yu said indifferently. He had defeated the enemy who had tried to steal his woman and set him up multiple times. He had also defeated the target that he had once wanted to defeat. Su Yu did not feel any sense of accomplishment. In the past, Qin Feng had been too strong to surpass in his eyes. But now that they were exchanging blows, Qin Feng was at ease. He had not even used his vital energy. This kind of victory did not make him feel any sense of accomplishment. Jiang Xueqing's beautiful eyes rippled, covering her red lips in disbelief. The purple-robed gentleman was stronger than Qin Feng. The phrase, "you are too weak," made her heart beat uncontrollably. The purple-robed gentleman was too strong. In his eyes, the Gold King could only be described as too weak. At this moment, the purple-robed gentleman had left a deep impression in her heart. The young girl's heart had been completely captured. The audience sucked in a breath of cold air. The mysterious purple-robed gentleman was incomparably strong. The Gold King, in his words, was only described as, "You are too weak." At that moment, the audience wanted to scratch their heads. They were too curious. Was there such a strong student in the Martial Arts Training Institute? Qin Feng had been defeated, and the knot in his heart was slightly resolved. As he raised his head and looked at the boundless horizon, Su Yu felt that he was still too small and insignificant. His abilities were far from enough. Qin Feng was merely the son of the Qin country's duke. The Qin family's power had not been revealed in the slightest. Jiang Zhisher was shocked. He cautiously and politely stepped forward, cupping his fists as he asked, "May I know the purple-robed gentleman's name?" Chapter 31. Qin Feng, his mouth full of blood, Jiang Xueqing, the curious celestial being, Xia Linxian, everyone was silent. They also wanted to know who this powerful young man in purple was. In the silent arena, countless gazes fell upon Su Yu. Su Yu felt a little helpless as he took out his student number and threw it to Jiang Zhisher. It was a pure silver student number with a hint of gold. Holding the student number and looking at the two names, Jiang Zhisher felt as if he had been struck by lightning, dumbfounded and in disbelief. "You are the Silver King, Su Yu!" Jiang Zhisher gasped, unable to believe it. In his mind, a poor and weak figure gradually overlapped with the noble, mysterious, and powerful figure in purple. He had always felt that the man in purple looked familiar. Only now, as the two faces overlapped, did his mind explode. The man in purple was the Silver King, Su Yu. The gold students were aghast. Impossible! How could a mere Silver King defeat the new generation Gold King? The new generation Silver King, Su Yu? How is that possible? The silver students felt as if they had been hit by a heavy hammer. Chen Tiannan and Xian Lifei were dumbfounded. This mysterious, powerful, and noble man in purple was the Silver King, Su Yu? However, after connecting the two of them, they were extremely sure that he was Su Yu. On the VIP stage, Yi Xian gasped, "What? It's him? Impossible, a month ago he was only at level 2 peak, now he can defeat the Gold King." Xia Linxuan's eyes glowed, stunned for a moment, then laughed. Good. What a Silver King, hiding his strength and shocking the world with a single brilliant feat, He is the first in the history of the Institute to suppress the Gold King as a Silver King. At the 10 great demon students, the celestial being suddenly stood up, her eyes filled with shock. Her seductive lips formed an exaggerated O shape. How could it be him? In her impression, Su Yu's archery skills were top-notch, and his talent for cultivation was not bad, but how could he be so amazing? The thick-browed, big-eyed youth laughed and patted his head. Ha ha ha! So it's him, the silver boy from the depository of scriptures. Isn't his transformation a little too drastic? The silver-haired youth frowned in disgust. So it's silver trash. What a weakling! The celestial being in the painting and the thick-browed, big-eyed youth could both see that the silver-haired youth was angered by his shock. It seemed like Su Yu's previous performance had already surprised him, but he was not willing to admit defeat. Qin Fen's expression was lifeless. With his mouth full of blood, he looked comical and ridiculous. In his eyes, a piece of trash who couldn't even withstand a single blow had defeated him fair and square, and even gave him the evaluation of being too weak. The cruel reality was hard for Qin Feng to accept, and he was stunned on the spot. Jiang Xueqing's eyes were filled with confusion and confusion. Her face was still filled with excitement and a smile, but her expression was as stiff as a winter flower. Her beating heart, at this moment, was like an icy spring, extremely cold. After a long time, she shook her head, refusing to believe the truth before her eyes. No, he isn't. How could he be Su Yu? How could he be the person I abandoned? Jiang Xueqing felt like she was in a dream. She had heartlessly abandoned the man who loved her deeply, deeply hurting him because she wanted to pursue a man who was suitable for her. Now, she had finally found her heart, found a man who was suitable for her, but she discovered that this man was the man she had coldly abandoned. The contrast between the past and the present, the laughable karma, made Jiang Xueqing feel like she was dreaming. The person she loved was the person she had abandoned. What was even more laughable was that he had once loved her so much. The silence turned into a clamor. You're lying. How could he be Su Yu? He's completely different. Impossible. The difference between the Silver King and the Gold King is immeasurable. Jiang Zhisher gasped. The kid the Duke of Qin wanted to deal with had actually climbed to the level of the Gold King. He knew that he could no longer attack Su Yu. With such nature-defying talent, he would be nurtured by the Institute as a reserve demon student. He, Jiang Zhisher, would not be able to touch him. When the students accepted the reality in front of them, that the mysterious and powerful purple-robed man was once the Silver King, countless looks of admiration and respect shot towards him. They all knew that from that day onwards Su Yu would soar. No one could suppress him anymore, no one could strangle him anymore. He would be the legend of the Martial Arts Training Institute. As the Silver King, he had defeated the Gold King, a legend that no one could surpass. Xia Linxian threw his head back and laughed. Good, good, good! Our Martial Arts Training Institute has gained another genius. A level 4 lower tier defeating a level 4 upper tier. Such talent was comparable to the 10 great demon students. Clang, rumble, thump, thump, thump. At that moment, the entrance to the arena was forcefully broken open. 20 black troopers charged in with a murderous aura. They lined up on both sides of the entrance, welcoming the arrival of a certain important person. The black troopers of the Duke's mansion. Xia Linshuan's expression changed. Yi Xian also felt that things were not looking good. The Duke of Xianyu was one of the 3 most powerful dukes of the Fenglin Empire. He had great influence in the imperial court. At the same time, his personal cultivation base had reached level 6 of the martial path, and he had groomed a group of level 5 strong fighters. The Black Armor Guards were the most famous bodyguards. In the Xianyu prefecture, the Black Troopers were an invincible existence. With 100 of them, even a level 7 of the martial path would have to retreat. In the Empire, the Duke of Xianyu held great power, and no one dared to offend him. Fang Yun slightly frowned. Even he had to be wary of the members of the royal family. This was because the members of the royal family were the descendants of the Holy King. In other words, the Holy King was once the old emperor. How could Feng Yun offend the descendants of the Holy King? Xia Linxian flew down, his expression grave. He gazed at a handsome middle-aged man, who looked like a monarch descending from the heavens, walking over with extraordinary dignity. The Duke of Xianyu, what brings you here? Xia Linxian was extremely surprised. He and the Duke of Xianyu had a good relationship. Now that he had charged into the training institute with such a murderous aura, it was unbefitting of the Duke of Xianyu's character. The Duke of Xianyu's expression was normal, but his eyes were filled with anger. Suppressing his emotions, the Duke of Xianyu cupped his hands and said in a deep and dignified voice, "I am sorry to disturb the Duke of Xianyu. I am here for one person. A month ago, I put him on the wanted list. Today, I found out that he is a student of the Training Institute. In order to prevent the news from leaking out and allowing him to escape, I acted so rashly." Xia Linxian heaved a sigh of relief. He had heard that the Duke of Xianyu had been searching for an archery genius in the last month. He didn't expect that such a wanted criminal was actually hiding in his academy. "Does the Duke know his identity? I will assist you in capturing him." Xia Linxuan's gaze turned cold. The Duke of Xianyu was an upright and outspoken person. Since he had put a wanted list on the wanted list, he must be an unforgivable criminal. Suddenly, from behind the Duke of Xianyu, a petite beauty appeared. She had a sharp chin, watery eyes, and skin as delicate as spring snow. She looked like an adorable porcelain doll. The young princess, dressed in a light yellow dress, furiously wrinkled her small nose. "His name is Su Yu. This perverted scoundrel. We are here to capture him. Where is he?" It turned out that ever since the Duke of Xianyu had received clues about the Blazing Lion, he had searched the entire city. Coincidentally, Li Mingho was questioned. Even more coincidentally, he happened to be in the shop that day. After a brief confrontation, he immediately revealed that the man who sold the Blazing Lion was the Silver King, Su Yu. Thus, the identity of the perverted criminal who violated the young princess was revealed to the world. Swish, swish, swish. All eyes were on the noble purple figure on the arena. As the Silver King, he had suppressed the Gold King and created a legendary genius. They were at a loss, puzzled, doubtful, and gloating. Qin Feng squeezed out a malicious smile. "You brought this upon yourself. In the end, you still lost miserably." Jiang Xueqing was in a daze for a long time. She still could not reconcile the poor and weak Su Yu in the ravine with the man in purple she loved. At this moment, hearing that he was wanted by the Duke of Xianyu, she did not know why, but she felt much more relaxed. "Su Yu, this is the best fate for you. Without power or influence, no matter how gorgeous you are, you will still end up the same." Jiang Xueqing no longer looked at the figure in purple, quietly muttering to herself. The celestial being could not believe that the perverted criminal who violated the young princess was Su Yu. Whoosh! The celestial being was as graceful as a flower, her body as light as a swan. She flew to the door with a hint of pleading on her face. "Uncle, is there a mistake?" The Duke did not answer, but the young princess pulled on the celestial being and whispered in her ear. "Humph! There's no mistake. The fire dragon snake skin on your body belongs to this guy." Suddenly, the young Canton princess slapped her white jade forehead and suddenly realized, "Oh, so the person who saved you is this guy? Sister Jingyu, he must have sucked your breasts while you were unconscious, that perverted criminal." The young princess pouted, her eyes wide open. She fiercely waved her fist. "I will not forgive him." Boom! The celestial being's mind exploded. "It's him. It's really him." Before she fainted, that pair of eyes as deep as the stars, that pair of familiar eyes, was actually Su Yu. Gratitude, joy, and joy welled up in her heart. As for whether she had been violated, the celestial being was certain that she had not. Uncle, I hope you understand. After all, he was desperate to save the young princess. The celestial being's eyes shone as she pleaded with the Duke of Xianyu. This was what gave the Duke of Xianyu a headache. He had always been clear about rewards and punishment. Su Yu had saved his daughter and should have been rewarded, but the other party had indeed violated his daughter's chastity. It was difficult for him to decide how to deal with him. His only thought was to give his daughter an explanation, to at least give her peace of mind, to prevent her from hindering her martial path. Xia Linxian had a strange look in his eyes. His daughter looked calm and indifferent on the outside, but she was upright and proud on the inside. This was the first time she had pleaded with someone. Duke, could there be a misunderstanding? Xia Linxian felt his heart ache for such a genius. The Duke of Xianyu slowly shook his head, his eyes cold. Men, take Su Yu down. He was stubborn, and no one could stop him. The celestial being was anxious. Biting her red lips, she walked over to Fang Qingzhou, enduring the humiliation in her heart. Fang Qingzhou, can you ask your father to step in and protect him? Only Fang Yun could stop the Duke of Xianyu. How humiliating was it for someone as noble as her to plead with a bastard who had once tried to defile her? Fang Qingzhou's eyes had already turned cold. This was the first time he had seen her so concerned about another man. Chapter 32. Good. Fang Qingzhou replied coldly. He leaped onto the stage and whispered a few words into his father's ear. Fang Yun remained expressionless, but his gaze towards Su Yu was a little colder. After a moment of silence, Fang Yun's cold voice rang out, "The Martial Arts Training Institute accepts talents from all over the world. Evil people should be expelled. In my name as an inspector, Su Yu is expelled. From now on, he is no longer a student of the Xianyu Prefecture Martial Arts Training Institute." Expelled? The crowd gasped. As an institute, the harshest punishment was expulsion. This was equivalent to ruining Su Yu's future, and he would never be able to make a comeback. Throughout the empire, the Martial Arts Training Institute was the cradle for cultivating geniuses. No other force could compare. Xia Linxian protested, "Inspector Fang, please reconsider. Suppressing the Gold King, this person's future is limitless." Fang Yun calmly said, "Talent is important, but so is morality. The Xianyu Prefecture Martial Arts Training Institute will not tolerate evil people." The Duke of Xianyu was slightly stunned. He looked toward the purple-robed Su Yu, secretly surprised. Suppressing the Gold King at 14 years old? The Duke of Xianyu remained calm and collected as a ray of light flashed across his eyes. Seeing that Xia Linxian was unconvinced and still wanted to resist, Fang Yun's expression turned cold. "Do you wish to disobey my orders?" Xia Linxian was furious, but helpless. Xia Linxian could only obey the orders of the sanctuary. He silently sighed. It was a pity that a genius was about to fall. The crowd was silent. Only the celestial beauty glared at Fang Qingzhou, who was smiling evilly, with a pair of eyes as clear as snow. She understood that her request was counterproductive. She opened her mouth to continue pleading with the Duke of Xianyu. At this moment, on the stage, Su Yu smiled with relief. "Fairy, this is my fate, there is no need to say more." The celestial being's body trembled, feeling indignant for Su Yu. He had saved Su Yu out of kindness. How did he end up like this? He had painstakingly made a name for himself, but his future was ruined, and he was now in prison. "But you..." Su Yu calmly waved his hand, looked at the horizon, and sighed softly. There was a tinge of helplessness, a tinge of unwillingness, and a tinge of satisfaction in his sigh. "Forget it. I was originally a soul on the run, and it's enough for me to come to this world for a while." In his previous life, he should have died in a plane crash. Living for another 3 months was already a blessing from the heavens. With a faint smile on his face, Su Yu looked at her and said, "I've been alone all my life, and I've been poor and destitute. My girlfriend has just abandoned me, and I'm at the bottom of my life." Fairy, you gave me a bow, and I will always remember your kindness. Fortunately, I've repaid you in the Twilight Mountains. My only regret is that I still don't know your name." The celestial beauty trembled slightly. That day, she had been moved by the thought of cherishing talent and had casually gifted him a bow. What she had received in return was the gratitude of the other party for saving her life. Why did someone like Su Yu have to die at such a young age? Within the beautiful eyes of the celestial being in the painting, a trace of mist filled the air. Her red lips faintly trembled. "Jingyu! Xia Jingyu! Xia Jingyu! Xia Jingyu!" Su Yu muttered with a smile. "Clear skies and sparkling waters are good, the mountains are empty and the rain is strange, the name is good, the person is good. I no longer have anything to worry about, I have no regrets in this world." The celestial beauty, Xia Jingyu's fragrant shoulders trembled, tears glistening in her eyes. An indescribable sadness filled her heart. There had never been a man who could shock her to such an extent. At that moment, the celestial beauty hated herself for being useless. She hated the heavens for being so unfair to Su Yu. Looking at the scene of Su Yu bidding farewell, for some reason, many people felt as if their hearts were blocked by something. Was Su Yu bidding farewell to the world? Jiang Xueqing clenched her jade-like hands. She felt a faint pain in her chest. Before he died, he only had Xia Jingyu in his heart, and not even a shred of her, Jiang Xueqing? After being together for 10 years, in his heart, I am no longer as important as a bow. He has really let go of me. A deep sense of loss and loneliness engulfed her. A wisp of sorrow was born out of nowhere. The deepest loneliness was not from the ends of the earth, but from being close at hand, yet forgotten. Su Yu, whom she had abandoned, had not distanced himself from her, but had forgotten her. A silent sadness enveloped the hearts of the crowd. Duke of Xianyu. Su Yu glanced over, looking at the Duke of Xianyu. His expression was indifferent, without hatred or sorrow. Whether you are repaying kindness with ingratitude or thinking of your daughter, it will not be easy to capture me. The Duke of Xianyu's eyes flashed. His expression was cold, and he did not speak. The young princess of Xianyu bit her lip, her nose sore. She tugged at the Duke's sleeves and choked with sobs. "Father, forget it, it's as if I'm the bad guy." The Duke of Xianyu was unmoved. He looked at Xia Linxian and mercilessly said, "Since he is a student of your institute, you can do it. Capture him and let me deal with him." Su Yu. So the person in the mountains was you. Fang Qingzhou's eyes were filled with hatred. From Su Yu's words, he knew that the person who had saved Xia Jingyu and ruined his plans was Su Yu. Whoosh! Fang Qingzhou leaped onto the arena. Qin Feng wiped the blood from his mouth and looked at the grief-stricken Jiang Xueqing, his heart burning with anger. "Su Yu, you are about to die." Whoosh! Qin Feng also stepped onto the arena, joining forces with Fang Qingzhou in a pincer attack. 2 generations of gold kings simultaneously suppressing a generation of silver kings. Su Yu laughed instead of being angry. "Ha ha ha! Good timing." "Kneel." Fang Qingzhou and Qin Feng brazenly attacked. Crackle! Consecutive 8 trigram fingers. Fang Qingzhou's fingers moved like shuttles, as fast as lightning. Creak! Great tablet Buddha's hand. Qin Feng's palm energy was fierce, fluctuating. Facing the attack from both sides, Su Yu's purple robe and ink-black hair danced in the wind. His eyes, as deep as the stars, bloomed with a bright light. Swoosh! Demonic stab! Su Yu's eyes shot out an invisible wave, entering Fang Qingzhou's mind. Ah! Fang Qingzhou clutched his head and screamed. Bang! A huge fist ruthlessly smashed into his handsome face, knocking out several of his teeth. His mouth was full of blood as he flew backward. The force of the fist was so great that Fang Qingzhou fell off the arena on the spot, severely injured and unconscious. Qin Feng took advantage of the opportunity to attack. He had fought Su Yu for more than 100 rounds before being defeated, so he was confident that he could hold Su Yu back. Punkacha! Tempest. Su Yu's vital energy surged, infusing vital energy into his cultivation technique for the first time. Qin Feng's palm broke in an instant, the terrifying force severely injuring his internal organs. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood, flying backward to the ground, unconscious on the spot. In a single breath, 2 generations of Gold Kings had been killed at the same time. Hiss! The crowd below the arena gasped. Xia Linxian, Yi Xian, Fang Yun, and the Duke of Xianyu were all shocked. A generation of Silver Kings, suppressing both the old and new Gold Kings in an instant. Just how strong is Su Yu? So this is Su Yu's true strength. He did not show his full strength when he fought Qin Feng before. So strong. Fang Yun's expression darkened slightly, lightly shouting, Jiang Zhisher, what are you waiting for? Capture this traitor. Jiang Zhisher was stunned for a moment, then reacted, his eyes filled with fear and hatred. This person's potential was too strong. He could not be left alive. You dare to resist, add to your crimes. Jiang Zhisher roared. The blood energy of a level 4 peak came crashing down. This scene was very similar to the one at the silver assessment. The same abuse of power, the same ruthlessness. The difference was that Su Yu was no longer the same. Old man. Get lost. Su Yu's cold eyes flashed with a black light. Kacha, light of fright. A ray of black light suddenly shot out. Jiang Zhisher had no time to react, and was hit at close range. Light of fright could severely injure the soul. It was a dangerous cultivation technique, injuring the opponent's soul in a minor way, or even threatening their life. Su Yu would not use it lightly in an ordinary battle. Only a shameless old dog like Jiang Zhisher was the most suitable to use it. A shrill scream came from Jiang Zhisher's mouth. Crack, Tempest! At the same time, Su Yu's leg landed on his old face. As if hit by a ship, Jiang Zhisher's head and facial features were bleeding. He fell to the ground on the spot, his life or death unknown. Wow! The audience was in an uproar. Jiang Zhisher, who was at level 4 peak of the martial path, as the referee, was beaten to the point where his life or death was unknown. He had defeated 2 generations of Gold Kings and killed the powerful Jiang Zhisher. Everyone felt as if they were in a dream. The Silver King of this generation was simply nature-defying. Chen Tiannan's face was pale, his eyes filled with shock, light of fright? How is that possible? I've been training for 3 years. How long has he been training for? Furthermore, his power is more than 3 times stronger than mine. Fang Yun, Xia Linxian, and the Duke of Xianyu were all shocked. He had actually trained demonic eyes to stage 2 top class. Wouldn't that mean that he was an extremely rare prodigy of the soul? Prodigies of the soul were the most mysterious and frightening type of martial artist. They could kill without leaving a trace, and were mysterious and unpredictable. They were geniuses that many forces fought to cultivate and recruit. Unfortunately, they required innate prodigies of the soul to be cultivated, and were extremely rare. Chen Tianan, who had average prodigies of the soul, was the only known prodigy of the soul in the Xianyu prefecture. Su Yu was also a rare prodigy of the soul. Xia Linxuan's eyes were filled with anger as he shot a glare at Fang Yun. Such an outstanding student had been kicked out of the training institute by him. In the future, he would definitely become the laughingstock of the training institute. The Duke of Xianyu's eyes shone even more brightly. Xia Jingyu and the young princess of Xianyu were in disbelief. Jiang Xueqing's mouth was wide open. Su Yu was too strong. Fang Yun's expression was ugly. He was the one who had announced the expulsion of Su Yu. In the end, Su Yu had displayed his peerless talent and ability, and he was the one who had been humiliated. He could only capture Su Yu as soon as possible. However, just as he was about to open his mouth, whoosh, a silver trash dares to be so arrogant. A silver-haired youth, his entire body cold, leaped onto the arena. Xia Jingyu and the thick-browed youth exclaimed, Shaoli, what are you doing? The silver-haired youth stood with his arms crossed, his eyes cold. I can't stand to see silver trash act arrogantly in front of me, it's dirtying my eyes. The audience was in an uproar. Silver-haired Shaoli ranked fourth among the top 10 demon students of the Institute. His talent is frightening. This person is arrogant and has no respect for anyone. He is extremely loathsome. Even the demon students had made a move. Suyu was too strong. Chapter 33. Suyu stood with his hands behind his back, staring at his opponent. The silver-haired youth was about 17 years old. He remembered that day at the depository of scriptures, when the other party saw that he, a silver student, was present. He felt that Suyu's presence was polluting the air and turned to leave. Now, he felt that Suyu's presence was polluting his eyes. His arrogance and conceit could be seen clearly. But he had the right to be arrogant. With the frightening strength of a level 5 lower tier, he was ranked 6th among the 10 great demon students, just below Xiaojingyu. If you think it is polluting your eyes, you can close your eyes or destroy them, no one will stop you, Suyu calmly said. The silver-haired youth had a grave expression. Make your move, I don't want to waste another word with you. Silver trash. Suyu smiled without saying a word. Level 5 of the martial path was very strong. Since he dared to enter the arena, he must have the confidence to deal with a secret technique like the spirit petrifying light. As for the Tempest, he had yet to reach stage 3. It was effective against a level 4, but not a level 5. It looked like he could only use that move. Whoosh, filthy trash, I asked you to make your move, but you dilly-dally. You won't have the chance to make your move. The silver-haired youth seemed to feel that being in the same arena as Suyu would pollute him even more. He brazenly attacked. Star-killing finger. A top-level cultivation technique was displayed. His fingers curled like the changing stars. It was hard to tell what was real and what was fake, but it was dazzling. An unparalleled gust of wind, carrying with it a terrifying vital energy, shook the sky. Rumble, one finger struck, suppressing everything. Suyu did not move, his starry eyes glimmering with a misty light. A unique rhythm engulfed his body. He was still the same person, but he seemed to be in harmony with nature, as if he was one with nature. Like a painting, Suyu's existence did not seem out of place, as if he was part of the painting. The sneering Fang Yun froze, his expression changing. Xia Linshuan's pupils dilated. Yi Xian was in disbelief, his breathing rapid. The Duke of Xianyu's eyes glowed with excitement. Xiaojingyu covered her mouth and cried out, "This is..." The thick-browed youth gasped. Of the 10 great demon students, only the first has touched the holy decree. The holy decree was one of the prerequisites for stepping into the holy king realm. There were many people who cultivated to the 6th, 7th, 8th, and even 9th heavens, but they were unable to comprehend the holy decree, forever fated to never reach the holy king realm. For example, Fang Yun, Xia Linxian, and the Duke of Xianyu, who were present, had not fully comprehended it. Only monstrous geniuses with extraordinary comprehension would be able to comprehend it. Among the top 10 geniuses, only the first-ranked genius had managed to comprehend a tiny bit of it. The rest of them had yet to comprehend it. However, the holy decree sought by hundreds of millions of martial arts experts had appeared in the hands of a 14-year-old junior at the 4th heaven of the martial path. Everyone was shocked. Comprehending the holy decree was the key to becoming the holy king. As long as Suyu grew up healthily in the future, he could possibly become the holy king of this generation. In the arena, as Shaoli attacked with his finger, he suddenly felt that his opponent's temperament had changed drastically. A wave of uneasiness swept over him. Woo-woo, heavenly finger. Suyu was immersed in the state of the old man's finger in the wall painting. His mind chased after the old man and involuntarily drew a finger in the air. This finger was ordinary and unremarkable. There was no dazzling technique, no gorgeous beauty. However, the surrounding air flowed crazily, encircling the side of the finger. Endless mysteries and a natural rhythm flowed between the fingers like clear water. Everyone below the arena was attracted by the finger. They could faintly feel a harmonious natural aura circulating within their hearts. Crash, the finger streaked across the air. Shaoli was still 10 feet away. But his superior cultivation technique, the Star of Slaughter finger, came to an abrupt halt. Wah! Shaoli violently spat out a mouthful of blood. A bloody wound was clearly visible on his chest. His silver-haired figure was sent flying, crashing heavily below the arena. His arrogant eyes were filled with shock. Su Yu retracted his finger, his eyes regaining clarity. His mind had a shred of understanding. He had a deeper understanding of this finger. At the same time, he unexpectedly discovered that the purple star thunderbolt, which was difficult to comprehend, had a shred of understanding. With a little more understanding, he might be able to reach the entry level. Unfortunately, time waits for no one. Su Yu no longer had the chance to cultivate. Standing with his hands behind his back, he walked to the edge of the arena. He looked down at Shaoli, whose mouth was filled with blood. Su Yu calmly shook his head. Are you really one of the 10 great demon students? You keep calling me silver trash, and I thought you were powerful. In the end, you are not even a silver, unable to withstand a single blow. Puff! Shaoli was so angry that he spat out another mouthful of blood, fainting on the spot. He, who was so arrogant, had actually lost to the silver trash in his eyes. Below the arena there was dead silence. Shaoli, ranked 6th among the 10 great demon students, had lost to Su Yu in one move. Looking at the purple-robed figure, countless people held their breaths. It was as if they were looking at an invincible battle shadow. Jiang Xueqing was dumbfounded, her mind blank. She had actually abandoned a student who was a monstrous genius. Xia Jingyu and the thick-browed youth were in disbelief. Yi Xian's breathing was rapid, his fists clenched as he anxiously reminded, "Housemaster, we cannot tolerate this any longer. That Fang Yun expelled a genius who could very well be the Holy King for his own sake. How can we follow in his footsteps?" Xia Linxian had the same thoughts, his eyes red as he shouted, "Inspector Fang, please reconsider the matter of expelling the student. If there are no major mistakes, there is no need to expel him. How could he let a genius who had comprehended the holy decree go so easily?" Fang Yun's expression changed, his face burning. He glared at his son, a little resentfully. If not for his son, why would he expel such a genius? As an inspector, the performance of the Xianyu Martial Arts Training Institute had a huge impact on him. Expelling a genius who had comprehended the holy decree would make him a laughing stock. But he had already publicly announced the expulsion of Su Yu. If he were to retract his order, wouldn't that make him a laughing stock? After thinking about it, the only way to save his reputation was to kill Su Yu. The Duke of Xianyu had come in a threatening manner, his murderous intent clear. The Duke of Xianyu would not object to killing Su Yu in front of him. With a plan in mind, Fang Yun slammed the table and stood up. He looked dignified, and just as he angrily shouted, "Insolent sinner! Not only did you not surrender, you even injured an important member of the Institute. I, the inspector, cannot let you live." Rumble. A terrifying bolt of vital energy pierced through the air, heading straight for Su Yu. Only a level 7 of the martial path could release vital energy. With this finger, Su Yu had nowhere to run. With a bitter sigh, Su Yu no longer had the strength to fight. No! Xia Jingyu's eyes were misty. She broke free from her restraints and stepped forward. The young princess of Xianyu was also anxious, her face red. "No! I did not want to kill him, please stop." Countless people sighed in their hearts. A genius who had just made a name for himself had fallen just like that. Whoosh! But at this critical moment, a bolt of energy suddenly shot over. Even though it could not compare to Fang Yun's vital energy, it managed to deflect the bolt of vital energy that was filled with killing intent. Rumble. The vital energy brushed past Su Yu and hit the empty seat. In an instant, a few of the seats turned to dust. If it had hit Su Yu, he would have been smashed to pieces. Whoosh! At the same time, a figure flew onto the stage and stood in front of Su Yu. This person was not Xiao Linxian or Yi Xian. It was the Duke of Xianyu. The person who wanted to kill Su Yu was the Duke of Xianyu, and the person who saved him was the Duke of Xianyu. Everyone below the stage was stunned and puzzled. Even Xiao Linxian and Yi Xian could not understand. Fang Yun froze for a moment, then politely said, "Duke of Xianyu, what is the meaning of this? I am helping you to kill the traitor." Ha 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 ha! Who knew that the Duke of Xianyu would laugh, his laughter piercing the clouds. Turning around, the Duke of Xianyu's eyes glowed. He warmly hugged Su Yu's shoulders, his face beaming. He looked around at the audience. "It was my thoughtlessness that caused all of you to misunderstand. Su Yu is my son-in-law. Putting him on the wanted list was a bad idea." Son-in-law? The Duke of Xianyu's son-in-law? The audience was dumbfounded. They could not react to such a sudden turn of events. Just a moment ago, the Duke of Xianyu was searching the entire city for Su Yu, threatening to kill him. The next moment, he was beaming and announcing that Su Yu was his son-in-law? The Duke of Xianyu calmly said, "Su Yu and my daughter met by chance. He saved my daughter's life. My daughter could not forget him. She could not eat or sleep. As a father, I had no choice but to find Su Yu in the sea of people. Luckily, I finally found him." The Duke of Xianyu was overjoyed. He patted Su Yu's shoulder and smiled. "Su Yu, my daughter is infatuated. I hope you do not let her down." Su Yu felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He had thought he was dead for sure. Su Yu quickly understood. At first, the Duke of Xianyu had indeed found trouble with him. But after realizing that Su Yu was talented, he had changed his target to a son-in-law, using the opportunity to win him over. One who survives a disaster is bound to have good fortune. Su Yu thought quickly. His performance today was stunning. Qin Feng and Fang Qingzhou would definitely think of ways to get rid of him. The Martial Arts Training Institute had no ability to protect him. With Fang Yun around, Xiao Linxian and Yi Xian could not help. His performance just now had made everything clear. Only the Duke of Xianyu was a member of the royal family. With his backing, Fang Yun and the Duke of Qin did not dare interfere. Hence, Su Yu had no other choice. "I am indebted to the young princess and the Duke's love. How can I be worthy?" Su Yu pretended to be fearful. The Duke of Xianyu laughed. "Ha ha! You have comprehended the holy decree. There is a possibility that you will become the holy king in the future. Such a dragon among men is naturally worthy of my daughter." "Good. Since that is the case, I will take it as you have agreed. In half a month, I will hold an engagement ceremony for you and my daughter." The Duke of Xianyu was pleased. He looked around. "When the time comes, I hope that everyone will come and support us." The young princess of Xianyu was stunned. She pointed at her own nose. "What? I think about him day and night, unable to eat or sleep. What? He wants to hold an engagement ceremony for us? This pervert has become my fiancé?" The young princess of Xianyu angrily pouted and shouted, "Eyes! Woo woo woo!" Xiaozi, who was serving beside the commandery princess, was quite perceptive. She hurriedly covered the commandery princess's mouth and whispered in her ear, "Young commandery princess, don't make it public or the commandery prince will be embarrassed." Xiaozi gazed at the purple-robed Su Yu on the arena. He was handsome, and powerful. She envied him. The Canton princess was really lucky to have found such a husband by chance. He would be the future holy king in the world. How many women dreamed of getting him? Chapter 34. The young princess was furious, but her cultivation level was too low, and she was completely suppressed by Xiaozi. Fang Yun's expression was ugly. He could no longer touch Su Yu. Xia Linxian slowly came to his senses, secretly cursing the old fox. The Duke of Xianyu had obviously discovered Su Yu's amazing talent and changed his mind at the last minute. Duke of Xianyu, so it was all a misunderstanding. Since student Su Yu did not do anything wrong, our martial arts training institute cannot be so stubborn. We should take back the punishment that was given to Su Yu. He is still a member of our martial arts training institute. Xia Linxian was not stupid, and he wanted Su Yu back. How could the Duke of Xianyu let him? No matter, Su Yu will receive better resources and care in the Duke of Xianyu's palace. I will help you train him well. Housemaster Xia, please do not worry. What the Duke of Xianyu was implying was that if such a top talent were to be buried in the training institute, the Duke of Xianyu's manor would not allow a pearl to be covered in dust. Xia Linxian opened his mouth to speak. Su Yu, who had seen through everything, spoke up in time. Su Yu bowed deeply towards Xia Linxian and Yi Xian, and said gratefully, "Thank you, housemasters, for your protection. I, Su Yu, will remember this kindness. But time waits for no man. I wish to go further and higher. Please grant me this wish." Go further and higher. Many people thought back, occasionally glancing at Fang Qingzhou and Qin Feng. Su Yu staying in the training institute would be difficult to protect. Qin Feng's power might not be able to affect the Transcendent Martial Arts Training Institute, but Fang Qingzhou's father was in charge of the Martial Arts Training Institute. It would be easy for him to secretly suppress Su Yu until he could never raise his head again. The crowd observed a moment of silence. Such a peerless talent, who could have brought glory to the training institute, had been bullied and had no choice but to leave. No one hated his betrayal, but instead sympathized with him. Without power and influence, even if he had the talent, it would be difficult for him to grow. Being a talent did not mean that he would be able to make a comeback in the future. A talent without power and influence would either die young or perish. Xia Linxian and Yi Xian were silent, their hatred for Fang Yun seeping into their bones. A peerless talent who had the potential to become the Holy King had been chased away by him. Feeling the resentful gazes of many people, Fang Yun was like a pig looking into a mirror. He looked at Su Yu deeply, then flicked his sleeves and left. Su Yu left the Martial Arts Training Institute with great strides as he was escorted by many black armored guards. From then on, Su Yu was no longer a student, but a consort of the Xianyu prefecture. Jiang Xueqing stared at Su Yu's back, her expression complicated. Su Yu also had power and influence. Xia Jingyu was secretly pleased. She could not help but cover her mouth and laugh. The young princess and Su Yu are fated to be together. They actually became husband and wife. Haha. Thinking back to their coincidental meeting, Xia Jingyu had to admit that they were fated to meet. Who could have imagined that the absurd scene at the setting sun mountain range that day would lead to this marriage? The news of the academy quickly spread throughout the city. The genius of the martial path, who was expelled by the Martial Arts Training Institute, would become the son-in-law of the Duke of Xianyu. Su Yu, as the Silver King, had suppressed 2 generations of Gold Kings, severely injured Jiang Zhisher with one move, and instantly killed Shaoli, one of the 10 great geniuses. As for the Martial Arts Training Institute losing its genius, the joke of the Duke of Xianyu taking advantage of it had spread throughout the city for a long time. Su Yu had already moved into the Duke's manor. The Duke's manor was luxurious and luxurious, displaying the nobility of the royal family. Everyone in the manor, from the Duke to the servants, treated Su Yu with great respect. Li Minghai and Li Jinshan of the past did not even dare to breathe in front of him. The feeling of being in control of power, of being at the top of the hierarchy, overwhelmed him. But Su Yu was not immersed in it. This power belonged to the Duke of Xianyu, not Su Yu. One day, in the study of the Duke, "Su Yu, do you have parents at home? Invite them to the city to discuss the engagement." The Duke of Xianyu was very pleased with Su Yu, his heart filled with joy. His talent was shocking, and he understood the holy decree. He was graceful and dignified. His daughter and Xia Jingyu had both received a life-saving grace from him. He was indeed a dragon among men, a rare find. Su Yu shook his head. I have no parents at home, I grew up eating the food of hundreds of families. The parents of this body had died of a plague early in his life, and he had no relative. It was the Taoist temples, and neighbors that had helped Su Yu today. The Duke of Xinyu sighed. Su Yu had such a pitiful life. How about this? I will send someone to inform your village about your engagement with Xiener. At the same time, I will exempt them from paying taxes for 10 years, as a form of repayment for their kindness in raising you. Xiener was the name of the young princess. The royal family's surname was Qin, and the young princess's original name was Qin Xiener. Su Yu thanked him. Thank you, Duke. Although he did not feel a sense of belonging to Qingshan town, this body had been born there. Su Yu was grateful that the Duke of Xianyu was willing to take care of them. What are your plans after this? The Duke of Xianyu asked Su Yu about his life plans. Su Yu did not hesitate, his eyes filled with determination. Nothing else, I will aim to become the Holy King. In this cruel world, strength was the only way to maintain order. Without strength, Su Yu would not be able to enjoy life in peace. The Duke of Xianyu nodded his head in satisfaction. He was worried that a poor boy like Su Yu would be affected by the luxurious lifestyle and lose his martial heart after suddenly becoming a relative of the royal family. Now, it seemed that Su Yu's martial heart was far stronger than he had expected. Very well. The Duke of Xinyu said sincerely, in this world, power, fame, and wealth are all fleeting clouds. Your own strength is the key. For example, the Holy King, the supreme power of the royal family, is nothing in his eyes. How could he look down on the world? Su Yu bowed to accept the advice. After a pause, the Duke of Xinyu said, How big do you think the Xinyu prefecture is? Su Yu was slightly shocked. It is boundless, with a radius of tens of thousands of miles. There are countless cities under its jurisdiction, with a population of hundreds of millions. I have never left the Xinyu prefecture since I was born. The area of the Xinyu prefecture was even larger than the mainland of China in his previous life. The Duke of Xinyu gently shook his head. In your eyes, the Xinyu prefecture is very big. But do you know that the Xinyu prefecture is only one of the 13 prefectures in the Fenglin Empire, and it is the smallest? Su Yu was shocked. The Xinyu prefecture was as big as the entire mainland of China in his previous life, and it contained a total of 34 provinces. But in the Fenglin Empire, it was only the smallest prefecture? If all 13 prefectures were added up, wouldn't it be even bigger than the Earth of his previous life? The world is very big. If you want to be above the masses, you will not be able to accomplish much by staying in the Xinyu prefecture. So, your sights should be set on the whole empire. That is your stage. The Duke of Xinyu said. Su Yu suppressed his shock, a heroic spirit surging in his heart. The world is so big, and the sky is so vast. How can I, Su Yu, stay in a corner? Su Yu thanked the Duke of Xinyu. Thank you for your guidance. I, Su Yu, will work hard to become famous in the empire. Very good. I admire your spirit. The Duke of Xinyu was very pleased, silently praising Su Yu. He had not misjudged Su Yu. Su Yu was definitely not a small fry. Then, I will give you an opportunity to advance to a bigger stage. The Duke of Xinyu was determined to give Su Yu an opportunity. Su Yu suddenly raised his head. A bigger stage? The Duke of Xinyu laughed. That's right. In a month, it will be the Fenglin Empire's holy meet. All the demon-level geniuses from the martial arts training institutes of the 13 prefectures, the royal family, will compete and fight for the title of Holy Genius. As a duke, I have the right to recommend a place to represent the royal family in the competition. Are you willing? A whole 13 prefectures, that is, the top geniuses of the whole world, competing together? Su Yu was excited, sincerely thanking the Duke of Xianyu. I, Su Yu, will never forget your kindness. He should have been suppressed by Fang Yun and the Duke of Qin. His future should have been ruined, and his life and death were uncertain. But at the darkest moment of his life, the Duke of Xinyu took a liking to him and protected him. The Duke of Xinyu even gave him such a precious place, giving him the opportunity to advance to a bigger stage. This kindness was undoubtedly a turning point in his life. Although the Duke of Xinyu had played a part in his expulsion from the training institute, but he understood that without power or influence, it would be difficult for him to make a name for himself in the training institute. Fang Qingzhou and Qin Feng would not allow him to rise. The Duke of Xinyu was gratified. He helped Su Yu up and laughed heartily. I do not have a son. Xiener's nature is playful and does not focus on the martial path. This is the only regret of my life. Fortunately, the heavens took pity on me and gave me a son-in-law. This is enough for me. Feeling the Duke of Xianyu's heartfelt gratification, Su Yu secretly clenched his fists. The Duke of Xianyu had done him a great favor, and he would repay it in this lifetime. But Su Yu still had a grudge in his heart. I, Su Yu, will never forget the Duke of Xianyu's kindness. But I have something that I will not be happy about. Haha, speak your mind, the Duke of Xianyu said. Su Yu said with fervor and composure, I've only met the young princess once, and I can tell that the young princess has no feelings for me. Isn't this engagement unfair to the young princess? Su Yu did not want to force someone against their will. I see. I thought you felt inferior because of your birth. The Duke of Xianyu could not help but laugh. Su Yu was worried about this. He could not help but laugh. You can rest assured. She has to abide by the wishes of her parents. Moreover, Xiener has no one in her heart. Even if she does not marry you today, she will marry someone else tomorrow. As a member of the royal family, Xiener understands this. You worry too much. The children of the royal family had no control over their marriages. They had been instilled with this philosophy since they were young. Su Yu's worries were unnecessary. She has no one in her heart? Su Yu heaved a sigh of relief. If the young princess had someone in her heart, Su Yu would be stealing her love. Su Yu would never do such a thing. If that was the case, then it was not a big deal. Just as the young princess had no feelings for him, Su Yu also had no deep feelings for the young princess. No one would be at a disadvantage. If that is the case, then I can rest assured. Su Yu smiled frankly, then cupped his hands. If the Duke has nothing else, I will go train now. Today's battle has enlightened me, and I want to seize the time to train. I believe my abilities will improve. The Duke of Xianyu smiled benevolently. Child, haha. Go on, hurry up and train. Looking at Su Yu hurriedly training, the Duke of Xianyu was satisfied. He was even a little regretful that Su Yu was not his own son. But thinking about how Su Yu was about to become his son-in-law, he was relieved. Leaning against the large chair and resting for a moment, the Duke of Xianyu instructed a servant, prepare the invitations and invite them to the ceremony. I want Xiener and Yuer's engagement ceremony to be held in a grand manner. The servant immediately prepared a large list of names according to the Duke's instructions. When his gaze fell upon the names First Prince, Second Prince, Third Prince, the Duke of Xianyu frowned. The second prince and Xiener grew up together, and have feelings for each other. I hope that the second prince will not mess around with Xiener's engagement ceremony. The Duke of Xianyu rubbed his brows, feeling a little annoyed. Since ancient times, it was not uncommon for the royal family to marry. In the Fenglin Empire, it was common for the princes to take a princess as their consort. The second prince had proposed many times, but was always rejected by the Duke of Xianyu. Firstly, Xiener was still young, and secondly, the second prince was a sinister person. Chapter 35. After pondering for a long time, the Duke of Xianyu became even more agitated. The imperial court is in chaos. Many of the dukes are secretly supporting the princes. I am the only one who is not involved. I am afraid this will not last long. The Duke of Xianyu was worried. Since ancient times, in the struggle for imperial power, it was difficult for the centrist party to have a good ending. The Duke of Xianyu was not keen on power. However, the Xianyu prefecture was close to the imperial city of the imperial capital, and he could send his army to the imperial city in 10 days. How could the princes not view such an important place as a thorn in their eyes? He wanted to stay out of it, but it was difficult. In recent years, as His Majesty's health had deteriorated day by day, the three princes had been fighting more and more fiercely. A few months ago, Duke Jiuquan, who had pledged his allegiance to the third prince, was charged with conspiring against the third prince. In reality, the first prince and the second prince had teamed up to suppress the third prince. Among the three princes, the third prince was the most courteous and courteous. His wisdom and strategy were far above that of his two elder brothers. However, he was born of a concubine and had no foundation in the imperial court. It was reasonable for him to be suppressed by his two elder brothers. The Duke of Xianyu could already smell the change of the dynasty and the bloody stench of the storm. As a duke, it was difficult for him to avoid it. He could only hope that Xian'er and Su Yu would not be implicated. At this moment, an old man walked in from the door. His face was shriveled and his expression was lifeless. He wore a straw raincoat and appeared to be sneaky. He was old Qin, who had been secretly protecting the young princess that day. "Senior Qin is back?" The Duke of Xianyu stood up abruptly and politely asked, "How is the investigation going?" Senior Qin's voice was hoarse. "The Duke's prediction is not wrong. The green-robed secret guards are already operating around the Xianyu prefecture. The young princess's identity might have already been exposed. I hope that the Duke will make arrangements soon." The Duke of Xianyu's expression was solemn. After a moment of silence, he said, "I know." Old man Qin nodded expressionlessly and retreated like a ghost. As for Su Yu, he was in seclusion. On the arena, when Su Yu displayed the old man's finger, he had an epiphany. At this moment, when he flipped open the purple star thunderbolt again, he felt that he had gained a lot of enlightenment. The words that were once difficult to understand were now simple and easy to understand. Could it be that after comprehending the holy decree, certain obscure and difficult things are easy to understand? Su Yu was delighted, secretly grateful to the elder in the mural for pointing. 1 day passed, 2 days passed, a full 10 days passed. Su Yu suddenly opened his eyes and punched out without any warning. Chila, a shocking scene appeared. Within the fist, there was a faint purple lightning arc. There was a faint burnt smell in the air. It was caused by the lightning arcs. Su Yu's eyes lit up. After 10 days and 10 nights of training, he had finally reached the entry level. Although it was not even a small success, after fusing with the Holy Will, he was able to condense a trace of lightning. How terrifying was the power of heaven and earth! Even if it was just a trace of lightning, it was still very terrifying. Purple Star Thunderbolt, what kind of cultivation technique does it belong to? Su Yu still did not understand. He has just entered the sect, yet he is already so frightening. What delighted Su Yu was that other than the Purple Star Thunderbolt, his Tempest had also improved greatly. Tempest had been cultivated to the 3rd level of the Lesser Mastery. Between his legs, wind and snow interweave. The power was astonishing, far greater than before. Moreover, with the help of the regional king's rare medicinal herbs, the superior cultivation room, and his personal guidance, his cultivation had unknowingly reached the upper tier of the 4th heaven. In just 10 days, he had broken through by a large margin. Now, even without using the spirit-shocking ray, he could easily defeat the level 4 peak Jiangjishir. Xiao Li, one of the top 10 demons, was also confident he could defeat him. "You come here, there are guests from the imperial capital. You and Xian'er should come out and welcome them together." Just as he was about to come out of isolation, the regional king came over with a smile. He looked at Su Yu and noticed that his spirit was different from before. He knew that Su Yu's abilities had improved and was very pleased. Hearing Su Yu's heart warmed. The Duke of Xianyu had already treated him as his true son. In the past 10 days, whether it was training resources, personal guidance, or life experience, he treated Su Yu as his own. The Duke of Xianyu had never had a son in his life, so he treated Su Yu like a son to make up for his regrets. Su Yu had been a businessman all his life and was used to seeing deception and the sinister world. Meeting an elder like the Duke of Xianyu, he was moved. In this strange world, he was all alone and had no friends or relatives. Only the Duke of Xianyu gave him a sense of family. Yes, father-in-law, Su Yu answered briskly. Hearing him call him father-in-law, the Duke of Xianyu smiled and felt satisfied. Looking at Su Yu's receding figure, he thought to himself, You and Xian'er must live well. When they arrived at the auditorium, the Canton princess was dressed in a pink dress. Coupled with her delicate and adorable face, she was as adorable as a fairy. Pervert! The young princess wrinkled her nose. Damn my father, marrying me to a pervert! I want to run away from this marriage, run away from this marriage! Waving her fists, the young princess protested. She was very small, only as tall as Su Yu's chest. With a faint smile, Su Yu squatted down to eye level with the young princess as a sign of respect. Speaking to her for the first time, Su Yu smiled and sincerely said, Young princess, thank you for pleading for me that day. The young princess blinked her big, watery eyes. What pleading for me? Su Yu smiled. The princess is the body of 1,000 soldiers. How can I be tainted by an outsider? If it was any other princess, I believe that once they caught me, they would kill me as soon as possible to protect their own reputation. However, you pleaded for leniency to the Duke twice. I am grateful for that. That day in the arena, Su Yu had fought to the death. The young princess had pleaded for the Duke to stop and spare his life twice. Although she was unruly, her nature was pure. Being in a high position, most of the princesses had long been influenced by power and did not care about the lives of ordinary people. Su Yu had no doubt that if he had saved another princess that day, they would have killed him to protect their reputation. Only the young princess Xianyu did not do so. Hearing this, the young princess was secretly pleased. At least he has a conscience. Who am I, Qin Xian'er? How can other princesses compare to me? Both of Xian'er's hands were behind her back. She raised her snow-white chin like a proud little peacock. At least you know what's good for you. I'll forgive you generously. Let's go and receive the guests. The 3 princes are here. Su Yu secretly loved her. Just a few words of praise had made her so happy. She really had the temperament of a child. The 3 princes were here? Su Yu was solemn. How powerful were the 3 princes of the Fenglin Empire! They could decide the fate of billions of lives with a single thought. If it was an ordinary person, they might be fearful. But Su Yu, who came from a different world, was calm and at ease. He stood with his hands behind his back, his purple robe fluttering in the wind. His black hair danced in the wind. His eyes, as deep as the starry sky, shone with wisdom. Xian'er skipped as she led the way, humming a melodious tune. She occasionally looked back at Su Yu, her snow-white chin nodding. Don't embarrass me. Xian'er waved her fist, fiercely warning him. Su Yu smiled without saying a word. He stepped forward and walked alongside her. Feeling Xian'er's liveliness and remembering the Duke's kindness, Su Yu's heart warmed. Perhaps this was his home in a different world. Half a cup of tea later, in the hall. Su Yu and Xian'er stood outside the hall. One was petite and exquisite, beautiful and adorable. The other was in high spirits, elegant and graceful. They looked like a celestial couple. The first prince has arrived. The second prince has arrived. The third prince has arrived. The servants outside the door loudly announced the arrival of the guests. Rustle, rustle, rustle. the sound of footsteps passed through the courtyard and arrived outside the hall. The three powerful princes appeared in the courtyard. They looked alike, exuding an aura of nobility and majesty. The first prince did not show his emotions. He was the most dignified. His eyes were sharp, making it difficult for others to look him in the eye. The second prince had long and narrow eyes. His lips were thin, the corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile, giving off a sinister feeling. Although the third prince looked ordinary, his temperament was the most refined. His smile was like a spring breeze, his eyes glinting with wisdom. "Brothers, you're here. Sien'er missed you so much." Sien'er's big black eyes darted around. She giggled as she ran forward, sweetly shouting. The first prince's indifferent eyes revealed a rare smile. He tilted his head to look at the guard following closely behind him. "Young princess, this is the cloud dress that the first prince prepared for you. It is impervious to fire and water. It can protect you from the mortal world and will always be bright. It is priceless." The guard offered it to her with both hands. Sien'er received it with a smile. The second prince's long and narrow eyes sized Sien'er up. He took out a hairpin from his robes and said with a smile, "This hairpin is a tribute from the Empire. I prepared it especially for you. Wear it on your head and it can nourish your blood and increase your cultivation level." Sien'er extended her jade-like hand and took the hairpin with satisfaction. Suyu raised his eyebrows. He was used to seeing all kinds of people. What kind of person could he not see through? With one look, Suyu could read the other person's thoughts. There was something wrong with the second prince's gaze. He seemed to have improper thoughts about the young princess. "I will not allow you to touch my fiancée." Suyu secretly remembered the second prince. The third prince smiled bitterly. "Sien'er, you know that I am the poorest. I cannot take out any treasures, so I brought you this." Sien'er pouted. When she saw the strange 9 beads interlocked lock in the third prince's hands, she immediately smiled. She snatched it and played with it curiously. It turned out that Sien'er was trying to be clever in order to get a gift from her 3 brothers. Suyu's eyes glowed. He could roughly see the character of the 3 princes from their gift. Among the 3 princes, the first prince was domineering. He was extravagant and his gifts were the most expensive. The second prince was cunning. He knew that the young princess was playful and did not like to cultivate, so he gave her a hairpin that could refine her blood. The third prince was the type of person that Suyu admired the most, but was also the most wary of. Among the 3 princes, he was the most scheming and shrewd. The young princess had received 3 treasures in a row. The first 2 were valuable, but the young princess did not react to them. The last one was not valuable, but the young princess liked it the most. It could be seen that the third prince's understanding of the human heart was far superior to that of his 2 brothers. The second prince's eyes flickered and fell on Suyu. His purple robe was like the wind. His black hair was soft and smooth, and his face was handsome. He was like a deity. His elegant and calm temperament came from deep within his bones. He was not at a disadvantage in front of the 3 princes. Chapter 36. The first prince and the third prince were silent, secretly sizing up Suyu. They also wanted to see how outstanding the son-in-law chosen by the Duke of Xianyu was. Suyu smiled gently, his smile like a spring breeze. "So it's the 3 princes. I am Suyu, Sien'er's fiancé. Apologies for not coming out to welcome you." His demeanor was neither servile nor overbearing, advancing and retreating politely, not at all intimidated by the second prince's imposing manner. The 3 princes exchanged glances with each other, their eyes filled with questions. This person's demeanor did not seem like that of a commoner. Where did the Duke of Xianyu find such a son-in-law? The second prince squinted his long and narrow eyes, letting out a cold breath. He sighed. "Sien'er grew up with me and is used to living in luxury. Now that she is marrying, I am worried that she will be wronged in the future." Suyu understood the second prince's meaning. He had not touched the treasures the three princes had gifted him. With a smile, Su Yu came to Xian'er's side. Xian'er was busy fiddling with the 9 interlocking chains. She was engrossed in playing with them, her expression focused. "Xian'er, open your mouth." Su Yu patted her head. "What are you doing? Don't disturb me." Xian'er was concentrating and was not happy to be disturbed. She pouted and muttered unhappily, but still subconsciously opened her mouth, revealing a slit. She obediently opened her mouth. Su Yu flicked his finger, and a drop of fiery red liquid entered his mouth. Xian'er subconsciously licked it with her tongue. It was sweet and warm, filling her throat. After entering her body, her entire body felt indescribably comfortable. Xian'er's eyebrows twitched as she broke free from the 9 interlocking chains. She suddenly raised her head, her face full of surprise. "What is this? It's delicious. I want more." Xian'er threw the 9 interlocking chains to a servant and turned to tug at Su Yu's sleeve. Her large, black eyes scanned his body impatiently. She was like a greedy kitten, anxiously looking for fish to eat on its owner's body. "Open your mouth." Su Yu smiled. Xian'er immediately opened her mouth in excitement, squeezing out a big O shape. Her eyes were filled with anticipation as she waited to be fed. With a flick of his finger, he flicked out another drop. Xian'er licked it with her tongue. The indescribably comfortable feeling once again filled her body. "I want more. I want more." It seemed like Xian'er was addicted to it, and she was hugging Su Yu's arm, swaying it back and forth as she acted like a spoiled child. Su Yu felt somewhat helpless, so he could only flick another 3 drops with his fingers. After Xian'er ate it, she closed her eyes with a look of enjoyment on her face. Suddenly, a stream of air swirled around Xian'er, and a formless energy surrounded her body. "Is this the sign of breaking through to the 3rd heaven?" The second prince cried out in shock. The eyes of the first prince and the third prince flickered, as a hint of astonishment could be seen deep within their eyes. When they looked at Su Yu again, their gazes were filled with respect. "I didn't expect that young Master Su would even possess the jade fire pith that only exists in legends." The third prince smiled like a spring breeze. The first imperial prince nodded slightly. Even the imperial family did not have a single drop of the jade fire marrow. The reason was that it had not appeared in the world for 100 years. When the young princess woke up and realized that she had broken through to the 3rd heavenly layer, she immediately cried out in joy, "Ahaha, I have broken through! Su Yu, do you have more? I want to break through to the 9th heavenly layer for father to see. Let him look down on me again." Ruffling her little head, Su Yu shook his head. Going too far is as bad as falling short. The path of cultivation is all about steady progress. Before learning to run, you must first learn to walk. You must first consolidate your current level. The young princess was not disgusted by Su Yu's affectionate behavior. Instead, she felt comfortable being rubbed on her little head. She could not help but close her eyes and hug Su Yu's arm, allowing him to rub her head as he pleased. Su Yu's body was tempered by the jade fire marrow. When he touched the young princess, it would stimulate the dormant jade fire marrow in her body. Hence, she would feel comfortable. Looking at the intimacy between the two, the second prince's narrow eyes burned with jealousy. "Haha, the Duke of Xianyu is a highly respected official in our country. The son-in-law he has chosen must be extraordinary in the martial path. Would young Master Su do me the honor of sparring with me?" The second prince's smile deepened. The second prince was a level 4 peak. He could see that Su Yu had a level 4 upper-tier cultivation base, which he could not compare to. The first prince and the third prince were curious. In the Xianyue continent, power and status were mere worldly possessions. The cultivation base was the most important. The Duke of Xianyu had a high position and power. His eyes were sharp. The son-in-law he had chosen was most likely not simple. Su Yu looked up and shook his head. "You are passable, but you are no match for me." The second prince laughed angrily. Being evaluated as passable by a level 4 upper tier was comical. He was a member of the royal family. He had the guidance of a famous teacher and sparring partners. Regardless of theoretical or practical experience, he was incomparable to an ordinary person. Su Yu's tone was arrogant. Young Master Su is so confident. I am even more curious. What kind of son-in-law did the Duke of Xianyu choose? Palm of the drifting leaves. The second prince approached angrily. His hands were like falling leaves, dazzling the eyes. It was difficult to distinguish between the real and the fake. Threads of heat surrounded his hands, stinging his skin. Similar to Tempest, it was a medium-level technique. Once it was cultivated to a certain level, it would produce some minor anomalies. Su Yu let go of Sienna and calmly took a step forward. Tempest! With one kick, a cold wind blew and ice and snow appeared. It was as if Su Yu's kick had opened the door to a world of ice and snow. The bone-chilling wind and the blinding ice and snow were extremely powerful. Thump! The palm and leg collided. The second prince was unable to defend himself and was kicked in the face. Creak! A layer of ice formed on his face, causing him unbearable pain. How dare you injure me? Capture him! The second prince flew into a rage. As a prince, it was a disgrace to be attacked in the face. Furthermore, he had been humiliated in front of Sienna. The guard following the second prince was a green-robed youth, a level 5 lower tier. Hearing this, his eyes flashed with a cold light and he attacked. Current-breaking kick. The green-robed guard displayed his ultimate skill. The shadows of his legs overlap. Every move carried the weight of a mountain. Wisps of pale yellow light surrounded his legs. A sense of oppression welled up in his heart. This person's ability was slightly stronger than Xiao Li's. Su Yu coldly countered. Tempest! Clang, thud, 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 both of them took 3 steps back at the same time. The pupils of the first and third princes shrank slightly. A level 4 upper tier could fight a level 5 lower tier to a draw. The second prince's loss was not undeserved. The second prince's face was filled with pain as he roared, "Don't hold back!" The green-robed guard's expression suddenly turned cold. He stared at Su Yu with a murderous look. "I only used 50% of my strength just now. Admit defeat or you will suffer." Boom, boom, boom. The vital energy within his body rose continuously, instantly filling his entire body. Using true qi to execute a cultivation technique would allow one's strength to double. In terms of vital energy reserves, Su Yu was far from the green-robed guards. But Su Yu still had a trump card. The green-robed guard's aura reached its peak. He brazenly released his strongest attack. Current-breaking kick. Creak. The air was compressed by a powerful force, slightly exploding. The power of this kick was more than double of what it had been before. Su Yu's eyes were cold, unafraid. Purple Star Thunderbolt! Lightly exhaling, Su Yu's fists flashed with purple thunder arcs. A trace of burnt smell spread to the surroundings. Both fists struck out like 2 purple dragons, surrounded by thunder, roaring into the sky. The air trembled, the air currents swirling. With Su Yu as the center, the strong aura caused dust to fly, creating a dust vortex. Thump, thump. The hearts of the 3 princes and the young princess in the distance beat fiercely at the same time. Staring at the strange scene, everyone's scalps went numb. What level of technique is this? Top-level technique? The second prince's expression froze, flickering with fear. The first prince's eyes flashed with a hint of murderous intent. The third prince's eyes were filled with shock, muttering, What level of technique is this? They were the most powerful princes of the empire. They had seen countless strong people and had seen many different techniques, but they could not immediately identify the level of this technique. In terms of power, it was far beyond medium-level techniques, even above rare top-level technique. Could it be the rumored saint-level technique? Rumor had it that saint-level techniques required nature-defying comprehension. In the royal family there was a saint-level technique, but the three princes could not cultivate it. Even if they flipped through it, they would not be able to comprehend it. They could not even comprehend top-level techniques, let alone the even more mysterious saint-level technique. The son-in-law of the Duke of Xianyu was a demonic genius who could comprehend a saint-level technique. The hearts of the three princes trembled. They had guessed that the son-in-law of the Duke of Xianyu would not be ordinary on the path of the martial path, but they had never thought that he could comprehend a saint-level technique. This person's future achievements would be terrifying. The three princes each had their own thoughts. On the battlefield, fists and legs collided. Rumble, crack, the green-robed bodyguard, a level 5 of the martial path, was sent flying by the two fists. The bones in his legs cracked, the clothes on his feet turned to ash by the purple lightning, and the flesh on his legs was torn apart by the lightning. He screamed in pain as he flew backwards, smashing a water jar in the courtyard, spitting out blood and fainting on the spot. Hiss! The servants who had followed the princes gasped. Saint-level techniques were indeed terrifying. A level 4 upper tier severely injured a level 5 fighter with one blow. Where did the Duke of Xianyu find this son-in-law? His potential was terrifying. Haha, our Su Yu is the best. The young princess clapped her hands, taking pleasure in the misfortune of others. She giggled and winked at the second prince. The second prince was angry and shocked, his heart filled with murderous intent. A genius who could comprehend a saint-level technique must not be allowed to grow. Brother, let me borrow your bodyguard to capture this person. Behind the first prince stood an inconspicuous green-robed bodyguard. His face was ordinary, the type that would be lost in a crowd. But his cultivation level was terrifyingly strong, a full level 6 of the martial path. The young princess wrinkled her nose, waved her fists, and bared her fangs. Second brother, are you trying to bully me? The first prince slightly frowned, secretly glaring at the second prince. Stupid! Do you really think the Duke is just a decoration? He had been watching from the shadows all along. The duel just now could be said to be a friendly duel. But for a level 6 of the martial path to fight, how could the Duke agree? Swish, a majestic figure strode out from the courtyard. He was handsome and dignified, and his eyes were filled with coldness. It was the Duke of Xianyu. Chapter 37. The second prince could not help but shudder. The Duke of Xianyu was the most powerful of the many dukes. He was a level 6 of the martial path. He could kill his enemies with a wave of his hand. The first prince hurriedly took a step forward, cupping his hands and smiling. Duke, you misunderstand. We were just sparring. I did not expect Mr. Su to be so powerful, just like the Duke back in the day. Congratulations to the Duke for finding a son-in-law. He glanced at the second prince with a reprimanding expression. Second brother, quickly thank Mr. Su for showing mercy. If Su Yu had not shown mercy, the second prince, who was a level 4 peak, would have been severely injured by Su Yu. In front of the Duke, the second prince could only swallow his anger and thank Su Yu. Su Yu calmly returned the greeting. His eyes subconsciously glanced at the level 6 green-robed guard beside the first prince, and his pupils shrank. Although he quickly concealed it, the first prince still caught him. Mr. Su, have you seen my guard before? The first prince's eyes shone brightly. Su Yu was slightly confused. I think I've seen him somewhere before, but I can't remember. Maybe it's because I look like someone. The first prince smiled lightly. The young princess impatiently said, All right, go and rest. We will attend my engagement ceremony in 5 days. Soon, the 3 princes were brought to a side room by servants. Father, look, I've broken through to level 3. Impressive, right? The young princess hugged the Duke's arm and raised her chin, proudly showing off. The Duke of Xianyu could not help but laugh. He had been secretly observing. How could he not know that Su Yu had taken out the rumored precious jade fire marrow? He also knew that Su Yu had cultivated a rumored saint-level cultivation technique. Even the royal family only had one saint-level cultivation technique, and no one had managed to comprehend it in 100 years. Where did Su Yu get the saint-level cultivation technique? Could he have gotten it from the depository of the Martial Arts Training Institute? But, as far as the Duke of Xianyu knew, the highest level of martial arts in the depository of the Martial Arts Training Institute was only high-level cultivation technique. How could he know that the Purple Star Thunderbolt was a remnant with no cultivation technique level? Even the Martial Arts Training Institute did not know its specific level, as no one had ever successfully cultivated it. Firstly, it was extremely difficult to comprehend, and secondly, it required Su Yu to possess a special holy decree. Therefore, no one knew that the Purple Star Thunderbolt was a legendary sacred-level cultivation technique. The Duke of Xianyu was overjoyed. Su Yu had once again exceeded his expectations. To think that Su Yu had the nature-defying level of perception to comprehend a saint-level cultivation technique. You're on the day of your wedding with Sienner, I will help you find a saint-level cultivation technique that the royal family treasures for you to comprehend. The Duke of Xianyu was extremely pleased and proud that he had chosen such a good son-in-law. The saint-level cultivation method collected by the imperial family? Su Yu's heart thumped wildly. In fact, after sensing the extraordinary power of the Purple Star Thunderbolt, he had already concluded that it was very likely to be a saint-level cultivation technique. However, it was only a remnant of a manual after all, so its might was limited. How could it compare to the saint-level cultivation technique that the imperial family had collected? Su Yu was grateful. He could imagine how difficult it would be for even the Duke to borrow the saint-level cultivation techniques of the royal family. However, for Su Yu's sake, he still made a promise. The Duke's kindness was as heavy as Mount Tai. Su Yu's heart was heavy. After Sienner left with the Duke, Su Yu returned to his room. As he passed by the courtyard where the three princes were, Su Yu recalled the green-robed guard beside the first prince. The terrifying power of a level 6. It's him. Su Yu's expression gradually turned serious. If he was not mistaken, that green-robed guard was the level 6 strong martial artist who had lured the Martial Arts Training Institute students to the Twilight Mountains. The 4th gold-rank student, Tsing Bir, had died at his hands. His corpse was still rotting in the valley. Su Yu, Lu Xian, and Lu Xing had almost mistakenly fallen into a trap. Su Yu had discovered them in advance and had luckily escaped. But how could he be the first prince's guard? A bad feeling welled up in his heart. In the side room, the first prince's face was gloomy. Bai Qixiong, have you exposed yourself to Su Yu? That day in the Twilight Mountains, the terrifying green-robed guard was indeed him. Hearing this, Bai Qixiong knelt on the ground and said in fear and trepidation, "First Prince, I have no impression of this person. For the past few months, I have been staying in the Twilight Mountains and rarely met anyone. If I had met him, I would have remembered him." That day, Su Yu had discovered him from a mile away. Su Yu could see Bai Qixiong clearly, but Bai Qixiong might not have been able to see Su Yu's face. Furthermore, Su Yu's aura, skin color, and clothing were worlds apart. Even if Su Yu stood in front of him, Bai Qixiong might not be able to recognize him. The first prince muttered to himself for a moment before coldly nodding his head. "Get up. I hope that Su Yu has mistaken you for someone else. Go and make the arrangements immediately and proceed with the original plan." For the next 5 days, Su Yu was busy entertaining guests and had no time to train. Especially since the young princess was mischievous and could not find him from time to time, Su Yu could not leave. As the empire's most powerful duke, his daughter's engagement was a big deal. All the honored guests were nobles, generals, and ministers, as well as wealthy merchants. Every single one of them was an existence that could make the empire tremble with just a stomp of their feet. As for the local guests, apart from Xia Linxian from the Martial Arts Training Institute, no one had the right to attend the engagement ceremony. The 5th day was the last day of the reception. Xia Linxian brought his daughter Xia Jingyu to pay a visit. "Kid, congratulations." Xia Linxian was a little embarrassed. In the past, Su Yu had been a student of the Martial Arts Training Institute. Unfortunately, his talent had been overlooked by Xia Linxian. Now, he had soared to become a relative of the emperor. Su Yu cupped his fists and sincerely said, "Thank you, Housemaster Xia." Xia Jingyu was untainted by even a speck of dust. Her face was as beautiful as a fairy from a painting. She had a tranquil smile on her face. Her voice was gentle and her temperament was otherworldly. "Congratulations, you have to treat Xian well in the future. She has a pure heart, don't let her down." Su Yu smiled. "I will remember Senior Xia's teachings. Please come in and have a seat." Su Yu had a deep respect and gratitude for Xia Jingyu. He could not forget the bow that she had given him. Xia Linxian, who was walking in front, hesitated for a moment. He pulled a long face and said awkwardly, "Su Yu, I heard that you have a good relationship with Xia Jingyu. Xia Jingyu has many problems on her path of cultivation. I hope that you can give her some pointers when you have the time." "Father." Xia Jingyu's skin was as white as porcelain. She blushed and stomped her feet in embarrassment. Su Yu replied, "Senior Xia is a demon-level genius. Her abilities are above mine. How could I give her pointers? In the evening, when I am done with my work, we can exchange pointers." Xia Linxian looked at Su Yu with admiration. Su Yu's reply was experienced. It could be seen that Su Yu's emotions were not something his peers could compare to. Xia Linxian sighed in envy. "The Duke of Xianyu has really picked a good son-in-law." Seeing the two of them leave, Su Yu stood outside the hall and continued to entertain guests. "The Duke of Qin has arrived," a servant announced. Su Yu raised his eyebrows, a cold expression flashing across his face. He had not forgotten that the Duke of Qin had forced him to give up on Jiang Xueqing. He quickly regained his composure. The engagement of the Duke of Xianyu had shaken the entire court. All of the nobles had come. The Duke of Qin was neither a friend nor foe of the Duke of Xianyu. It was understandable that he had come to congratulate him. "Greetings, Duke of Qin." Su Yu smiled and cupped his hands in greeting. He was magnanimous, neither servile nor overbearing. He did not show his emotions, as if they had never been unhappy. Seeing Su Yu again after 2 months, the Duke of Qin was shocked. Back then, when Su Yu was just a commoner, he had displayed an extraordinary aura. He had immediately determined that Su Yu was a talent. Now it had come true. The Duke of Xianyu had taken a liking to Su Yu as his son-in-law. Furthermore, he had displayed his holy decree at the Martial Arts Training Institute. He had the qualifications to become the Holy King. The Duke of Qin felt a tinge of regret. If he had known this would happen, he would have ended Su Yu's life at all costs. His mistake had given Su Yu a chance to grow. It would be difficult to get rid of him now. "Haha, Mr. Su, your future is limitless. If you have the chance to go to the imperial capital in the future, you can come to the Qin Manor for a chat." The Duke of Qin smiled warmly, just like before. The Duke of Qin had the intention to ease their relationship. Behind the Duke of Qin, a man and a woman stepped forward to greet him. "Congratulations, Mr. Su." Qin Feng and Jiang Xueqing had complicated expressions. Qin Feng had been humiliated most of the time. Not long ago, Su Yu had been beneath his notice. But now, he had become a relative of the royal family, the fiancé of the young princess of Xianyu. The young princess of Xianyu, Qin Xianer, was one of the 3 beauties of the Training Institute, on par with Jiang Xueqing. Now that he had the beauty and a powerful backer, his status was no less than the Duke of Qin Feng's. Jiang Xueqing, on the other hand, felt even more bitter. She was the one who had abandoned Su Yu. Now, looking back, he had become a demonic genius with the potential to become the Holy King. He was Qin Xianer's fiancé, the son-in-law of a duke. His status was extraordinary. What made her even more bitter was that she had once fallen in love with this peerless purple-robed man. Su Yu lightly nodded, without joy or sorrow. You must be tired from the long journey. I will order the servants to help you rest. At this moment, Sienna ran over from the corner of the courtyard, excitedly shouting from afar, Brother Su Yu, come quickly! Sister Jingyu is here too. The three of us can exchange pointers together. Ever since this little girl had broken through to level 3, she had been excited for a few days and was especially interested in training. Even though it was only 30% enthusiasm, the Duke of Xianyu was sincerely gratified. Sienna hugged Su Yu's arm, affectionately tugging at him. After being together for half a month, the little girl had gotten used to Su Yu. Of course, most of the time she treated him as something to show off. Only then did Sienna notice the presence of the Duke of Qin and the others. Her watery eyes glanced at Jiang Xueqing. She had heard of Su Yu's misfortune. Seeing Jiang Xueqing, she immediately put her hands on her hips, angrily glaring at Su Yu. Are you the bad woman who abandoned brother Su Yu? You're not much, not even as pretty as me. Let's go, brother Su Yu, ignore them. Sienna dragged Su Yu into the inner yard. Su Yu turned back, cupping his fists in apology, instructing the servants to bring them to a side room. Jiang Xueqing's shoulders trembled slightly, biting her lips, her heart filled with bitterness. That's right, compared to the young princess, what am I, Jiang Xueqing? In terms of looks, Jiang Xueqing did not lose to her. In terms of status, she was the high and mighty young princess, a relative of the emperor. How could Jiang Xueqing compare? Qin Feng felt humiliated, suppressing his anger. Qing'er, ignore them. I don't believe that Su Yu can be arrogant his entire life. Neither he nor Jiang Xueqing wanted to participate in the engagement ceremony. One was someone who had lost to Su Yu. The other was someone who had abandoned Su Yu. However, their father had insisted that they come, ordering them to be respectful and submissive. That was why they felt so aggrieved. Sienna led Su Yu to a pavilion in the inner yard. It was already dusk and the lanterns had just been lit. The resplendent lights and the twinkling stars reflected off each other, illuminating the small courtyard filled with pear blossoms. Xia Jingyu sat quietly on a stone bench in the courtyard. Her slender figure, under the light and pear blossoms, was as graceful as a fairy. Chapter 38. There were a few side dishes on the stone table in the courtyard. Sienna pounced forward and wolfed down the food, completely disregarding her image. Xia Jingyu took a small bite, her actions elegant, gentle, and graceful. After the meal, Xia Jingyu glanced at Su Yu and said gently, Let's exchange our cultivation experiences. Sure. Sienna was overflowing with interest. Haha, Sister Jingyu, you don't know this, but I've been training so hard that I've accumulated a lot. When the water flows into the canal, I've finally broken through. The three royal brothers were so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out, Sienna boasted, proud of herself. Su Yu smiled without saying a word. Xia Jingyu also smiled from time to time. The atmosphere was harmonious, warm, and tranquil. When everyone regained their senses, the moon was already high up in the sky, its radiance pouring down. Seeing that they were about to return to their respective rooms, Xia Jingyu bit her lip. Under the moonlight, her skin was as white as snow. Under the bright moonlight, her beauty was even more serene. Su Yu, can you let me see your holy decree? I can try my best to repay you. Xia Jingyu's face was burning hot, her heart in turmoil. She understood how unreasonable her request was. Anyone who comprehended the holy decree would have to go through a lot of hardships, and experience the tempering of time to achieve it. Asking to see it was tantamount to plagiarizing the holy decree. Unless they were blood relatives, no one would agree. But with the holy meat around the corner, Xia Jingyu desperately wanted to improve her abilities. Of course, no problem. As for repayment, forget it. Su Yu's straightforwardness was beyond her expectations, startling her. Su Yu had to thank Xia Jingyu for being able to comprehend the holy decree. In the underground relic, if not for her trying her best to comprehend the wall, Su Yu would not have noticed that the wall was not an ordinary object. He would not have used his time control to comprehend it. Whoosh! Su Yu quickly got into the zone, recalling the elder's heavenly finger in his mind. The ordinary finger was filled with an indescribable mystery, making it difficult for people to extricate themselves from it. It seemed to contain some sort of harmony with nature. Su Yu, who was displaying the finger, seemed to have become one with the heavens and earth. It was as if he was no longer a person, but a component of nature. Xia Jingyu's beautiful eyes glowed. Looking at it up close, the mystery was even clearer. Xia Jingyu's heart lit up. She seemed to have understood something. She gestured and extended her slender finger, drawing it across the air. But then, Xia Jingyu smiled bitterly. Although he had some comprehension in his heart, it was too shallow, and he could not draw out Su Yu's mysterious finger. A cool breeze blew as Su Yu approached. "Senior Xia, look at it again." Su Yu drew the heavenly finger once again from a close distance. Xia Jingyu's beautiful eyes sparkled as she immersed herself in it. This time, her comprehension was even deeper. However, what made her sigh bitterly was that she was unable to completely comprehend it. That profound feeling disappeared in a flash, and it was very difficult to imprint it in her memory. Forget it. Maybe it's because my opportunity hasn't arrived. Xia Jingyu gave up dejectedly. Su Yu thought for a moment, then said hesitantly, "If Senior Xia can stand it, I can guide you step by step. Perhaps you will be able to comprehend it more thoroughly." Hand in hand? Dong dong. Xia Jingyu's heart thumped violently, and she subconsciously refused. Xiener, who was next to her, widened her eyes and chuckled as she shook her head. "Sister Jingyu, don't be so courteous with brother Su Yu. How am I being polite? It's just that men and women shouldn't touch each other." Xia Jingyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But when she thought about it again, Su Yu was a gentleman, and her shyness put her at a disadvantage. Biting her lips, Xia Jingyu's beautiful face turned red, and her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz. Su Yu came behind her, and his large hands wrapped around her soft hands. Her jade-like hands were soft, smooth, and exquisite like jade. Holding them in his hands, she felt like she was holding a piece of warm jade, and it was extremely comfortable. Xia Jingyu felt as if she had been electrocuted. Her delicate body trembled slightly, and she instinctively wanted to withdraw her hands. Su Yu's large palms were scalding hot, and her heart beat wildly. Her blood boiled and her face turned red. The man's scent, which was close behind her, assaulted her senses, and she could not suppress her embarrassment. Although their bodies were not completely touching, they could already feel each other's warmth and scent. Such an embarrassing step-by-step guidance made Xia Jingyu want to give up on the spot. "Senior Xia, let's begin." Su Yu's expression was clear, and he did not have any distracting thoughts in his mind. Xia Jingyu's delicate body trembled slightly, and she felt that her whole body was stiff. She did not listen to her commands, and she allowed Su Yu to grab her right hand. She lifted it up high, and it gracefully slid down from the sky. "Senior Xia, focus your mind and discard all distracting thoughts." Sensing that Xia Jingyu's emotions were fading away, Su Yu reminded her softly. Xia Jingyu bit her lips, and she tried her best to regain her composure. She then focused her attention on her hand. As she gradually entered the state, Xia Jingyu's comprehension became deeper and deeper under Su Yu's guidance. It was as if she had found a door that allowed her to merge with nature, and she allowed herself to merge with the moonlight, the pear blossoms, and the courtyard. Under Su Yu's guidance, her fingertips also started to show traces of mystery. An indescribably comfortable feeling welled up in her heart. Unknowingly, Xia Jingyu's delicate body had entered a completely relaxed state, and she was completely immersed in this wonderful feeling. She was completely unaware that her delicate body was in Su Yu's embrace. Her right hand followed Su Yu's, and as it moved through the starry sky, it seemed like it was in harmony with nature. Xia Jingyu felt as if she was lying in a warm and safe place. She felt as if she was flying through the starry sky with the warmth behind her, and she was galloping through a vast grassland. There were no distracting thoughts, no sadness, no worries. There was only this endless warmth and comfort. At this moment, she really wanted to lie in this warmth forever. Outside the courtyard, the Duke of Xianyu and Xia Linxian walked past the entrance of the courtyard side by side, and stopped at the same time. In their eyes, Xia Jingyu was lying in Su Yu's embrace, and they were dancing under the moonlight. Even though she was constantly moving her fingers through the air, it was filled with elegance and grace, as if she was dancing. The two of them had merged into one, and they were as intimate as lovers. The Duke of Xianyu's expression was ugly. Su Yu was his son-in-law, and on the eve of their engagement, he was actually intimate with another woman. What infuriated him the most was that his daughter was foolishly sitting at the side, admiring the scene with no sense of danger. But very quickly, the Duke of Xianyu realized that something was amiss. It was as if Su Yu was teaching Xia Jingyu to understand the holy decree, and she had already touched the boundaries of the holy decree. While the Duke of Xianyu was secretly shocked at Xia Jingyu's level of comprehension, he could not help but blame Su Yu. It was good to be grateful, but to impart the holy decree to someone else, he really did not take the holy decree seriously. Xia Linxuan's eyes were filled with joy. His daughter had actually felt a trace of the holy decree. Even though it was not as pure as Su Yu's, she had crossed the threshold of the holy decree. With a little more practice, she would definitely be successful. A deep excitement came from the depths of his soul. If not for the fact that he was worried about disturbing his daughter, he would have already leaped forward in joy. There was hope for the Xia family. Filled with excitement, Xia Linxian looked at the two of them, who looked like a celestial couple. They were a match made in heaven. Xia Linxian could not help but sigh. If Su Yu were my son-in-law, how great would it be? Hearing this, the Duke of Xianyu's mood eased a little. He said with a faint smile, "Haha, I'm afraid Housemaster Xia has no chance. Tomorrow, Su Yu will be my son-in-law." The more outstanding his son-in-law was, the prouder the Duke of Xianyu was. At this moment, the young princess was no longer satisfied with merely admiring the scene. She giggled as she jumped up and down, tugging on Su Yu's sleeves. She sweetly said, "Brother Su Yu, Xianer wants it too." The commotion in the outside world caused Su Yu to withdraw from his comprehension. Xia Jingyu also suddenly returned to reality from that comfortable state she had never been in before. A faint sense of loss quickly occupied his heart as Su Yu pushed her away from his embrace. The warm feeling that had enveloped his whole body had disappeared. Su Yu was naturally more than willing to help his future wife. He squatted down and smiled as he rubbed Xiener's head. "Of course you can. But you must study seriously and not be mischievous." Xiener allowed Su Yu to rub her head, her face filled with enjoyment. She nodded. Yes, Xiener is the most obedient." Su Yu brought Xiener into the mystical realm, as if he was very familiar with it. Xiener was quite frank. Her petite body lay in Su Yu's embrace, allowing Su Yu to grab her hand and gesture it in the air. Xiener seemed to find it interesting, her face full of smiles. Xia Jingyu quietly stood to the side, watching the intimate actions of the two. The comfort and joy of comprehending the holy decree suddenly weakened, a dull feeling welling up in her heart. Time passed slowly, but Xiener was still unable to immerse herself in the holy decree. After 10 tries, she lost interest and pouted, "I'm not playing any more. It's not fun at all." Su Yu rubbed her head and was about to scold her when he suddenly noticed a mark on the back of her neck. It was red in color and shaped like a 9-tailed phoenix. It was very mysterious. Su Yu curiously tried to touch it with his finger. Xiener is being naughty again. The Duke of Xianyu had walked over and interrupted Su Yu's attempt. Su Yu could only give up. Xiener is talented, but her thoughts are not on the martial path. Xian'er glared at Su Yu, her small fists fiercely hammering his chest. That's not the case. I am a genius, I can achieve a breakthrough even without training. Alright, it's getting late. You and Xian'er should go and rest. You will be even more tired from the engagement ceremony tomorrow. The Duke of Xianyu patted Su Yu's shoulder. He was relieved to see the two of them getting along well. Watching the two of them leave, the Duke of Xianyu was gratified. Su Yu is a sentimental person. He will not let Xian'er down in the future. Yuer, quickly come with me. Xia Linxian could not wait and called his daughter away. Comprehending the holy decree was a joyous matter. Xia Jingyu let out a smile. Back in the house, Su Yu had a rare moment of peace and quickly cultivated. He had helped Xia Jingyu and Xian'er comprehend the holy decree. After many practices, he had a deeper understanding. Previously, he had only felt the surface of the elder's heavenly finger. Now, he was showing signs of mastering it. However, there were too many people around and he could not test it out. Slowly closing his eyes, Su Yu once again immersed himself in the elder's heavenly finger. Dark clouds covered the sky for thousands of miles. A cliff towered above the clouds, and an old man with the demeanor of an immortal was looking up at the sky. He extended his finger and drew a line in the air. The heavens, the earth, the mountains, the rivers, and all the living beings bowed down to him. With one finger, the sky cracked. A mysterious trajectory revolved around the finger. It was as if this finger contained the great way of heaven and earth. Su Yu followed the feeling in his heart and subconsciously drew his finger. Creak, rumble, with just one finger, the 10-foot-thick stone door shook. A deep crack spread across the stone door. Su Yu gradually stopped comprehending and stared at the crack in the stone door. He was deeply shocked. That elder, who was he? I had merely imitated the holy decree to a beginner level, and it already had such terrifying power? A level 5 lower tier would be defeated in one blow by me. Su Yu thought intensely. Chapter 39. This was the only explanation for the terrifying heavenly finger. Furthermore, Su Yu realized that the holy decree he had comprehended from the elder was different. The saint-level technique Purple Star Thunderbolt had only been enlightened after he had comprehended the elder's holy decree. But it was not as if there were no demons who had comprehended the holy decree. The number 1 demon of the Martial Arts Training Institute in the Xianyu Prefecture, Zheng Yilin, had comprehended it. But he had not learned Purple Star Thunderbolt. Judging from this, the holy decree Su Yu had comprehended was not simple. Clenching his fists, Su Yu was confident in the future of the martial paths. As long as he was given a sufficient platform, he would shine. Buzz buzz. Suddenly, the divine nine-dragon cauldron in his mind gently trembled. A drop of spiritual liquid rolled out from the divine nine-dragon cauldron. After the baptism, a tenth of the carved purple dragon had turned into a crystalline form. Su Yu was pleasantly surprised to find that his control of time had improved. Previously, in a quiet state, he could accelerate the time around him by 20 times. Now, he could accelerate it by 30 times. In a state of boiling blood, he could accelerate the time around him by 40%. Now, he could accelerate it by 50%. His eyesight had also become extremely good. He could clearly see the feathers of birds in the trees 2 miles away. Su Yu was overjoyed. Comprehending the holy decree would be extremely beneficial for activating the divine nine-dragon cauldron. Drip. Suddenly, Su Yu felt that the depths of his soul had undergone a baptism. His soul had become clear and ethereal, smoother and more natural than before. The fusion of the two Su Yu's souls had been a little rough, but after the baptism of the spiritual liquid, there were signs of fusion. A refreshing feeling welled up in Su Yu's heart. He flipped open the title page of Demonic Eyes. In the past, he could only see 7 words clearly. But now, he could see 8 words clearly. This was the effect of the initial fusion of the souls. His soul talent had increased once again. With a thought, Su Yu focused on cultivating the demonic eyes. He had been stuck at stage 2 top class for some time, unable to progress. Now, he would take the opportunity to try it out. Time passed bit by bit. This cultivation session lasted for an entire night. The next morning, the sun shone brightly and the birds chirped. Su Yu slowly opened his eyes, a look of pleasant surprise in his eyes. With the increase in his soul talent, he had successfully cultivated stage 3 lower class of demonic eyes. At this moment, a soul-stirring sword could be condensed in his eyes. It could slash apart the enemy's soul and kill without a trace. It was extremely dangerous. As long as his opponent's cultivation was not 2 cultivation levels higher than Su Yu's, he could kill him with one strike. It was a terrifying and powerful trump card. Prince Consort Ma, please try on the bridegroom's attire. Outside the door, a servant shouted. Su Yu smiled faintly. His engagement ceremony in the other world? When he was dressed in purple, he was as handsome as jade and looked like an immortal. When they put on festive red makeup, they looked valiant and dignified. Under the guidance of a servant, Su Yu and Sienna met up in the courtyard. Dressed in a petite and exquisite red dress, she looked like a little chili pepper. Her big watery eyes were looking at her attire excitedly and curiously. Hee, brother Su Yu. Sienna ran over to him with a smile. Do I look good? Su Yu was lost in thought for a moment. Her small face was exquisite and adorable, and her bright eyes were filled with innocence. She was petite and adorable, playful and pure. Was she really his fiancée? How could I, Su Yu, deserve it? Squatting down, Su Yu rubbed her head affectionately and said lovingly, Sienna will always be the most beautiful. Sienna raised her sharp, snow-white chin and said proudly like a proud peacock, Hee, it is your blessing to have me as your fiancée. Su Yu did not know whether to laugh or cry. Yes, my princess. Sienna happily hugged Su Yu's arm and said excitedly, let's go and get engaged. Her eyes were filled with excitement and eagerness. Su Yu smiled helplessly. Sienna was still a child, and probably did not understand what an engagement meant to a woman. She only thought of it as a fun game. Shaking his head, Su Yu walked into the hall with her. The hall was decorated with lanterns and colorful banners, and the sound of firecrackers was endless. It was a festive atmosphere. In the hall, many of the empire's nobles were sitting in rows, full of smiles. As a pair of beautiful women walked in, the guests looked over with a smile. The man was talented and handsome, like a celestial being in a painting. He had a noble temperament and peerless charm. The woman was petite and dainty, like a fairy from the legends. She was innocent and pure, and she was adorable. A perfect match made in heaven. The Duke of Xianyu has a shrewd eye for son-in-law. I can't help but admire him. Amidst the laughter and blessings, Su Yu and Sienna completed the engagement ceremony. Father-in-law, please have some tea. Su Yu and Sienna knelt down to serve tea. Seeing his most beloved Sienna get married, and seeing Su Yu as his son-in-law, he was extremely excited. A tear rolled down from the corner of his eye. His voice trembled as he said, Good. My daughter has finally found a husband. Taking the tea, the Duke of Xianyu downed it in one gulp. The crowd smiled and silently wished him well. The Duke of Xianyu was moved to tears. Perhaps this was one of the few happiest moments of his life. As a parent, who would not think of their children, the Duke of Xianyu was no exception. Wiping away his tears, the Duke of Xianyu stood up and helped Su Yu and Sienna up. Holding Su Yu's hand, the Duke of Xianyu choked with laughter. Take good care of Sienna for me. Su Yu's heart was moved. He would never forget the Duke's kindness. Bowing, Su Yu lovingly held Sienna's small hand. He spoke from the bottom of his heart. If the whole world is Sienna's enemy, then my enemy is the whole world. These words shook the hearts of everyone. Xia Jingyu wore a blissful smile as she looked at Sienna, her heart filled with envy. Jiang Xueqing lowered her head, a bitter smile on her face. Once upon a time, when they were childhood sweethearts, Su Yu had also said to her that he would never change his heart even if the seas ran dry. Sienna angrily waved her fist. Your enemy is the whole world. I have no enemy. The Duke of Xianyu laughed heartily. Good, good, good. I have not misjudged you. There are 3 things I am most proud of in my life. The Duke of Xianyu laughed heartily. First, marrying Sienna's mother. Second, giving birth to a daughter, Sienna. Third, choosing you as his son-in-law. Su Yu's heart trembled. The Duke valued him so much? His debt of gratitude increased by another knot. The crowd smiled and congratulated him. I hereby announce that from this moment onwards, Su Yu, you are Sienna's fiancé. The Duke of Xianyu announced in front of everyone. The guests all stood up, cupped their fists and congratulated the Duke. However, when all the guests stood up, there were 3 people who did not. Instead, they sat where they were, their expressions calm. They were sitting at the forefront, it was difficult not to notice. Moreover, their statuses were extremely noble, causing the nobles who were congratulating them to gradually fall silent. The lively atmosphere cooled down at an alarming rate. In the blink of an eye, it was dead silent. A strange atmosphere filled the entire place. A bad premonition filled the hearts of the nobles. Having been immersed in politics for many years, they could sense that something was amiss. Su Yu's heart was beating wildly. Ever since he had discovered the green-robed guard, he had had a bad premonition. And now, the strange behavior of the 3 princes had finally come true. The Duke of Xianyu's smile gradually faded, his expression calm and dignified. 3 princes, what is the meaning of this? The 3 princes slowly stood up. The first prince's expression was cold. He took out an imperial edict from his sleeves and held it with both hands, his voice low and stern. Duke of Xianyu, hear the edict. Crash. The guests' expressions suddenly changed. They all knelt down to hear the edict, their hearts shaking. What had happened? The 3 princes had brought the monarch's imperial edict. What was their purpose? Imperial edict? The Duke of Xianyu, Sienna, and Su Yu all knelt down to hear the edict. By the will of the heavens, the Emperor decrees. The Duke of Xianyu has committed treason and colluded with the Fenghuang Empire. His crime is unforgivable. From today onwards, he will be escorted to the imperial capital to await further orders. Receive the edict. The Duke of Xianyu's heart shook, his face full of anger. Why would I commit treason? I want to see the monarch and question him in person. The first prince and the second prince's expressions were cold and emotionless. Humph. This is a personal edict from His Majesty. Follow us back to the imperial capital, there will be justice. The third prince's expression was calm, neither happy nor angry, silently watching the situation unfold. The Duke of Xianyu laughed in extreme anger. Once I am imprisoned, right or wrong, it will all be up to you. Where is justice? In fact, the Duke of Xianyu suspected that they were faking the imperial edict. The monarch was critically ill. There were rumors that he had been placed under house arrest by the first and second princes. Even though he wanted to save the monarch, he had no proof. Now, the 2 princes were using the imperial edict to get rid of him. Just like the previous Duke of Jiuquan, who was charged with conspiracy and had his possessions confiscated, all his children over the age of 10 were executed. It did not matter if he died, but Sienna was only 14 years old. How could she be implicated by him? The first prince's eyes were cold as he shouted, "How dare you, Duke of Xianyu, to refuse the imperial edict and plot against me? Men, surround the Duke of Xianyu. Kill anyone who dares to resist." The merciless order reverberated throughout the hall. Outside the Duke's manor, heavy footsteps could be heard. A group of guards dressed in green, disguised as ordinary people, threw away their disguises and quickly surrounded the Duke's manor, searching for the Duke of Xianyu's family. Clang! The Duke of Xianyu's black armor guards quickly engaged the invading enemies. Bang, bang! but there was a group of extremely strong guards dressed in green, and they charged into the hall like a hot knife through butter. The leader of the group was the level 6 of the martial path, Bai Qixiong. 5 days ago, he had been ordered to break up the green armor guards outside the city, disguise themselves as ordinary people, and sneak into the Xinyu prefecture. He wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to capture the people of the Duke of Xinyu's manor. Behind him, there were 10 level 5 guards dressed in green, sealing the entrance and exit of the hall. Do not move, or you will be treated as treason, and you will be executed. Bai Qixiong's level 6 peak aura suppressed the surroundings. The flustered guests did not dare to move. Capture them! The second prince shouted. The Duke of Xinyu, the Princess of Xinyu, and her fiancé. As he glanced at Suyu, a sinister smile flashed in his eyes. The sudden imperial edict had changed everything. What was supposed to be a joyous engagement ceremony had turned into a murderous situation. Xia Jingyu knew something was wrong. She moved her delicate body and was about to escape, but was stopped by Xia Linxian. Calm down. Xia Linxian had a serious expression. Wait and see, do not go against the imperial edict. Everything under the heavens belongs to the king, do not act rashly. However, Xia Jingyu's heart was filled with anxiety. She could only silently endure and observe the situation. Although Xia Linxian was strong, he was not strong enough to make the empire his enemy. The two princes had the imperial edict in their hand. If Xia Linxian dared to resist, it would be disobeying the imperial edict. Qin Feng, who had a gloomy expression, was overjoyed, laughing to himself. Ha ha ha! Suyu, I thought I had become a phoenix. I did not expect to be implicated by the Duke of Xinyu and die even faster. Outside, the sounds of battle shook the heavens. They were all black armor guards groomed by the Duke of Xinyu, and they were at least level 5 of the martial path. If not for them, there would have been more than 10 green armor guards charging into the hall. They had to thank the Duke of Xinyu for grooming a group of experts, or else the situation would have been even more dangerous. The Duke of Xinyu was prepared for trouble from the royal family, but he did not expect it to come so quickly. He had not seen his daughter get married, nor his grandson born. He knew that if he surrendered, he would not be able to see the light of day again. The fate of the Duke of Jiuquan was his fate. His eyes were filled with grief and anger. The Duke of Xinyu was filled with murderous intent. He would not surrender. You two princes gave me a fake imperial edict. You have the ambition of wolves. I will not forgive you. Heh! The Duke of Xinyu brazenly attacked and killed the first prince. Chapter 40. Swoosh! Bai Qixiong stood in front of the first prince, his lips curled into a mocking smile. I have heard that the Duke of Xinyu is the strongest duke in the Fenglin Empire. Your abilities are unparalleled. I have admired you for a long time. Let me see how powerful you are. Song of the Breeze Sword. Whoosh! With a light touch on his waist, he held the soft sword in his hand. The body of the sword was cold and serene. With a flick of his wrist, the sword was like a breeze, airtight. The sound of the sword was like a soul-calming song, dazzling the eyes. The Duke of Xinyu had a grave expression. Song of the Breeze Sword, surnamed Bai? Could it be that you are the genius swordsman Bai Qixiong who was ranked 11th at the Holy Meet 15 years ago? 15 years ago, a genius swordsman, at the age of 16, had achieved a frightening level of level 6 lower tier of the martial path. During the Holy Meet, he rarely met a worthy opponent and killed his way to the 11th place, shocking the empire. After which, he disappeared. Unexpectedly, he was recruited by the first prince as his bodyguard. Now, his abilities had broken through to the peak of level 6, and he was even more powerful than the Duke of Xinyu. Bai Qixiong thrust his sword forward, chuckling, "Genius swordsman? Haha, compared to the top 10, I am just a piece of trash." How terrifying was the Holy Meet! A level 6 lower tier of the martial path was only ranked outside the top 10. In the vast Xianyu prefecture, there were only a few level 6 lower tiers of the martial path. Clang. The two exchanged blows, and the Duke of Xianyu was at a disadvantage. The former holy meat genius had terrifying abilities. Bai Qixiong mocked. The strongest Duke of Xianyu is only SOSO. Whoosh! He once again charged forward with his sword, tangling with the Duke of Xianyu. Both of them were level 6 fighters, and their vital energy was strong. Every move they made contained a terrifying power. A guest who could not dodge in time was injured by the shockwave. He spat out blood and fainted on the spot. Seeing that the situation was not good, Su Yu immediately hugged Xian'er and dodged. Xian'er was stunned, still recovering from the sudden disaster. She hit Su Yu's chest. "Brother Su Yu, someone is bullying father, let's go help." "It's useless, as we are too insignificant in a battle between them." Su Yu's fingernails dug deep into his flesh. Once again, he felt how insignificant he was. Because of his insignificance, he was powerless when Jiang Xueqing was snatched away by the high and mighty junior duke. Because he was insignificant, he was powerless when the royal duke, whom he had shown kindness to, was killed by the empire. Deep remorse and guilt filled his heart. As such, he didn't even notice that his palm was bleeding profusely. Hula, with a flash of air, the second prince, together with 3 green-robed guards of level 5 lower tier, chased after them and blocked the way. "Humph! Rebel, surrender now!" the second prince shouted coldly. His eyes were filled with a sneer. When his gaze swept past Xian'er, it was filled with lust. Qin Xian'er was known as the #1 beauty in the royal family. He had coveted her for a long time. He had proposed to the Duke of Xianyu many times, but was always rejected. Today, with the Duke of Xianyu in trouble and Qin Xian'er captured alive, wouldn't he be able to play with her? As long as he used the Duke of Xianyu as a threat, Qin Xian'er would have to compromise in order to save her father. She would strip naked and climb into his bed to please him. When that time came, he would do whatever he wanted, let him play with her and enjoy her. Attack! If you dare to resist, kill without mercy! The second prince secretly licked his lips, his expression imposing as he gave the order. The 3 green-robed guards were his trusted subordinates and naturally knew what their master was thinking. As such, they would only attack Su Yu, not Qin Xian'er. Qin Xian'er would be thrown onto their master's bed tonight. Sob sob, father. Tears welled up in Xian'er's eyes, helplessly and indignantly looking at her father, trapped in a bitter battle with Bai Qixiong. The once innocent, adorable, and carefree little face no longer existed. All that was left was tears. Su Yu's heart ached. He wanted to slap himself. How could he let his fiancée, his own woman, cry? Creak. The 3 green-robed guards mercilessly attacked. "Rebel, surrender now!" Coiling dragon finger. Water-splitting palm. The 2 level 5 lower-tier green-robed guards on the left and right attacked first. Su Yu's eyes were cold. This was the first time he had shown killing intent since coming to this strange world. Why did the Duke's manor have to be destroyed by them? The Duke was supposed to be enjoying his old age, the princess was supposed to be innocent and lively, the Duke's manor was supposed to be harmonious, a warm home for Su Yu to use as a harbor in this strange world. Why, for their own selfishness, for the sake of power, did they have to be so unscrupulous? The thick killing intent was like a raging flame burning in Su Yu's chest. 2 ferocious attacks brazenly attacked. Die! Su Yu roared, a furious roar. Purple Star Thunderbolt. Su Yu, with endless killing intent, attacked with all his might. The shadow of the purple fist was like an unparalleled thunder dragon, overturning the seas. It confronted the coiling dragon finger. Creak, crack, the first guard's arm was blasted by the purple thunderbolt. He spat out blood and flew 6 meters away, smashing deeply into the wall. His heart was instantly shattered and he died. One punch killed a strong level 5 martial artist. The guests sucked in a mouthful of cold air. The second prince's gaze turned cold. Attack together. No matter how strong a person is, he can't deal with so many people at the same time. As he gave the order, he dodged far away, calmly crossing his arms as he watched with a cold smile, as if he was watching a cornered beast fight. His lascivious gaze landed on Siener's petite and delicate body from time to time. He laughed lewdly. "Siener, tonight you are mine." Water-splitting palm. The green-robed guard took advantage of Su Yu's moment of attack to launch a sneak attack on Su Yu's back. Puff! Su Yu could not block it in time and spat out a mouthful of blood. Fresh blood sprayed onto the face of the young princess in his arms. The warm liquid caused Siener to subconsciously look up. Su Yu's mouth was full of blood, a ghastly sight. "Brother Su Yu, don't!" Qin Siener screamed in fear. Her father was surrounded and her fiancé was seriously injured. For the first time in her life, the innocent Qin Siener was lonely and helpless. Su Yu protected Siener tightly in his arms as he slammed into a stone pillar. His organs were shaken, and he forcefully swallowed the blood in his mouth. He forced a smile. "Be good, Siener, I will not die." "Father will not die either." Cough cough. Siener's cries made Su Yu feel grief and indignation. His eyes were like those of a wild beast, filled with monstrous murderous intent. "I want all of you dead." Su Yu roared with grief and indignation, like a trapped beast in a hopeless situation. The strong wind blew his black hair and fluttered his red robe. His pitch-black eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Diabolic sword. Die." Su Yu's eyes quickly turned pitch-black. A sword formed from black light shot out like a ray of light. "Ah!" The green-robed guard who had used the water-splitting palm let out a horrible shriek as blood spurted from his 5 orifices and he died. Before he died, it was as if he had suffered a great deal of pain. His facial features were contorted, looking extremely hideous. Xiao Linxian gasped. Stage 3 of Diabolic Eyes. Diabolic Sword. How is this possible? Could he be an extremely frightening prodigy of souls? Xiao Linshuan's entire body trembled. Prodigies of souls were the most unique group of martial artists. They possessed mysterious and unpredictable soul attacks that could kill people without them noticing. They were extremely frightening. They were almost invincible among those of the same cultivation level. Su Yu had hidden his abilities very well. He was actually a prodigy of souls with frightening potential. The expression of the second prince, who had hidden himself far away and thought that he was safe, changed. He dodged in a hurry. A shred of panic filled his heart as he screamed shrilly, "Quick! Quick, kill him! He is a prodigy of souls." Prodigies of souls could kill people without them noticing. They did not care about distance. The last green-robed guard was in the midst of killing. When he saw this, he was terrified and hurriedly stopped in his tracks with the intention of fleeing. Diabolic sword. Die. Ah, the green-robed guard died with blood spurting from his 5 orifices. He had died a miserable death. The diabolic sword was dangerous and unpredictable. It killed people without them noticing. It was a murderous move. Under normal circumstances, Su Yu would never use it against his enemies. However, the 2 princes had forced him to the brink of death, triggering his endless killing intent. The last guard had died in battle. The bottom of the second prince's feet turned cold. He frantically fled in the direction of the first prince, screaming like a woman, "Brother, save me! Quick, save me!" At this moment, his mind no longer had Qin Siener's charm. All that was left in his mind was the desperation of surviving. Although the first prince was fighting, he was also paying attention to what was happening. His pupils shrank. Su Yu was a mysterious and frightening prodigy of souls. Stop! Killing a member of the royal family is a heinous crime. You? The first prince sternly berated. Su Yu's eyes were bloodshot. Outside the hall, a cold wind blew, blowing his red robe. His robe danced in the wind, his black hair flying. He looked like a god of death. His eyes, as deep as the starry sky, burned with a raging fire that could cover the sky. The first prince's words fell on deaf ears. Diabolic sword, die. His murderous words reached the heavens. A small black sword shot out from his pupils, piercing through time and space. With an irresistible force, it slashed into the second prince's body. The second prince let out a blood-curdling scream. His facial features contorted, and he foamed at the mouth as he died. No matter how powerful he was when he was alive, no matter how powerful he was in death, everything turned to dust. Brother! The first prince's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. The second prince was his biological brother. They had grown up together, and he had always supported the first prince in his fight for the throne. Who would have thought that he would be killed by Su Yu? Killing a member of the royal family is a heinous crime. Attack! Kill him on the spot. The first prince's eyes were bloodshot, his heart filled with rage. He had thought that the trip to the Xianyu prefecture was in the bag. Who would have thought that Su Yu would be so daring as to kill a member of the royal family? Ha 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 ha! You're well done. I did not misjudge you. The Duke of Xianyu could not stop laughing. He was extremely pleased. If the Xianyu prefecture surrendered, the only fate awaiting them was to be killed. They might as well fight back and kill as many as they could. Su Yu had gone against the odds and killed the second prince. This made the Duke of Xianyu very pleased. Kill them! The first prince was furious, taking the lead. A frightening aura of a level 5 peak cultivator spread out with a bang. The first prince was the one who had hidden his strength. If he had not been completely infuriated that day, no one would have known that he was a powerful level 5 peak martial artist. 7 green-robed guards were filled with murderous intent as they charged forward without fear of death. Among them, 6 were level 5 lower tier, and 1 was level 5 upper tier. Under their siege, even a level 6 of the martial path would die, let alone Su Yu? Su Yu was fearless in the face of a desperate situation, laughing maniacally. A true man, death is death, what is there to fear? Carrying the trembling Xiener, Su Yu unleashed a powerful defiance in the desperate situation. Diabolic sword, one look, one kill. One step, one life. Chapter 41. Xia Linxian looked anxious. Not good. It is said that the diabolic sword consumes a lot of soul energy. Su Yu might not be able to sustain it for long. Su Yu's face paled with each kill. Using it 3 times in a row had seriously damaged his soul. But Su Yu only had one thought in his mind: kill. Diabolic sword. 5th person eliminated. 6th person eliminated. The guests gasped in shock. A mere level 4 had killed 6 level 5s in a row. What kind of terrifying son-in-law had the Duke of Xianyu found? Only 4 of the 10 green-robed guards were left. 1 level 5 upper tier and 3 level 5 lower tier. Whoosh! Su Yu's face was as pale as paper, his soul feeling a stinging pain. Diabolic sword could no longer be used. The 3 lower-tier green-robed guards swallowed hard, their hearts trembling. The leader of the green-robed guards had a cold expression. Attack. His soul is exhausted. He can no longer use secret soul techniques. The 3 green-robed guards clenched their teeth and attacked. Su Yu's soul energy was exhausted, but he still had the strength to fight. Purple Star Thunderbolt! Su Yu roared, purple lightning circling his fists as he attacked. 7th person eliminated. Puff. Taking advantage of this gap, he suffered a blow from the back and spat out a mouthful of blood. Purple Star Thunderbolt! Su Yu was not afraid of death. As he flew backward, he counterattacked. 8th person eliminated. Puff. The 9th green-robed guard took advantage of the gap and slammed his palm into Su Yu's chest. Su Yu was seriously injured and spat out a mouthful of blood. Purple Star Thunderbolt! Su Yu was like a trapped beast, filled with killing intent in this desperate situation. Ah, ninth person eliminated. Little bastard. Die. The last green-robed guard, the leader of the level 5 upper-tier guards, attacked furiously with bloodshot eyes. Whoosh! The air exploded, the fierce palm force far exceeding that of a level 5 lower tier. The powerful vital energy flowed into his palms. He slammed into Su Yu's abdomen. Wah! Su Yu spat out a mouthful of blood, the blood mist covering half the sky. This strike was unprecedentedly strong, and Su Yu's injuries were unprecedentedly serious. He was thrown to the ground and rolled several times, breaking countless wooden chairs before he finally came to a stop. His mouth was full of blood, and 3 of his ribs were broken. His entire body was like it was about to explode. Brother Su Yu. Siener's eyes were filled with grief, anger, and hatred. For the first time in her innocent life, she felt hatred towards life. Why did my father have to be killed by bad people? Why did Brother Su Yu have to be besieged? Su Yu stroked her head as his body trembled. He stood up and forced a smile on his bloodshot face. Siener, don't cry. I will protect you. Is he a monster? You can't even kill him like that? The green-robed guard leader's scalp went numb. A normal level 4 would have perished long ago after suffering the first palm strike of a level 5 lower tier. However, Su Yu had suffered at least 4 blows. In the last attack, he, a level 5 upper tier cultivator, made a move. His power was peerless, but he actually didn't die. Just how strong was his body? The first prince looked at the blood-covered Su Yu, his heart filled with fear. This person must not be allowed to live. Attack. Kill him. He can't do it anymore. The green-robed leader's eyes flashed. He clenched his teeth and charged forward. Kneel and accept your death. A powerful attack came. Su Yu's expression was solemn. He protected Siener with one hand and raised his other hand high in the air. He drew a mysterious finger in the air. This finger caused the air to boil and the wind to howl. This finger seemed to cause the mountains to collapse, the earth to crack, and the rivers to flow backward. Su Yu was like a man in a painting integrated with nature, his finger drawing a mysterious path. Heavenly finger! Su Yu understood the old man's painting, his eyes cold and disdainful as he drew a line in the air. Creak, puff. The level 5 upper-tier green-robed guard suddenly suffered an invisible injury. A huge wound appeared on his chest, so deep that his bones could be seen. He looked up and spat out blood. How could? His eyes filled with shock and unwillingness, the green-robed leader fell to the ground. The first prince and the guests were all aghast. The holy decree. It's actually the holy decree. Rumor has it that those who comprehend the holy decree have the qualifications to become the holy king. Could it be that the son-in-law of the Duke of Xianyu is a frightening holy decree comprehender? Soul talent, holy decree, the son-in-law of the Duke of Xianyu, he hid it too well. Is this unparalleled demon going to fall just like that? The first prince's expression changed, his killing intent dense. He was already regretting his impulsiveness in dealing with the Duke of Xianyu. Who would have thought that his son-in-law would comprehend the holy decree? If he were to break through to the holy king in the future, even if the first prince were to ascend to the throne, his entire family would be exterminated. This person could not be allowed to live. How dare you rebel? I cannot let you live. The first prince's level 5 peak aura made it difficult for Su Yu to circulate his blood. Fire seal. A level 5 peak fatal blow. His palm was surrounded by endless flames, emitting a terrifying power. The terrifying vital energy filled his entire body, with an unstoppable force that could topple the mountains and overturn the seas. This attack not only targeted Su Yu, but Siener as well. Brother Su Yu, don't worry about me, run. Life was full of ups and downs, and Siener seemed to have grown up overnight. Her expression was sorrowful as she struggled and gently pushed Su Yu away. The first prince was dealing with the Xianyu prefecture, and Su Yu was only implicated. "Brother Su Yu, I'm sorry, I can't be your bride anymore." Sienna's small face was filled with tears, and she tried her best to smile. Although it was a smile, it was so sad and heart-wrenching. Her delicate body turned, and she stood in front of Su Yu. With her petite body, she had brazenly blocked the first prince's fatal blow. In Su Yu's eyes, Sienna's frail body was gradually engulfed by the raging flames. Her sorrowful smiling face was as mournful as autumn leaves, becoming the final farewell of her life. "No!" Su Yu roared. His eyes instantly turned to crystal. "Time control." Su Yu growled, and his body entered a state of accelerated time. The outside world seemed to freeze. Sienna was about to be completely engulfed by the flames. That mournful, tearful smile was frozen in the final moment of her life. Whoosh! Su Yu's figure was like lightning. In the eyes of the outside world, his speed was more than half that of Sienna's. At the critical moment, Su Yu rushed over and pulled Sienna into his embrace. Then, he used his back to block the fatal blow. "Even if I die, don't think you'll have it easy." Su Yu's eyes glowed and he raised his finger, slashing down in the air. Heavenly finger! Rumble! When everyone came to their senses, they realized that in that instant, Su Yu had turned into a shadow and stood in front of Sienna, fighting the first prince to the death. The first prince was caught off guard, and with a pathetic cry, he covered his face. Looking at the right side of his face, starting from his eyeball, all the way to his chin, there was a hideous wound, so deep that the bone could be seen. Without a doubt, that right eyeball was destroyed. His face was also completely disfigured. But Su Yu had suffered the fatal blow. His abdomen had been burned by the raging flames, and blood was flowing freely. He, who was already seriously injured, was on the brink of death, and only a shred of consciousness remained. "No. Brother Su Yu." Sienna was stunned at first, then felt Su Yu's life ebbing away, and her heart trembled violently. The innocent and pure Sienna felt a heart-wrenching pain for the first time. It was like when her mother had left her years ago, the grief of having her soul hollowed out. "No. Brother Su Yu, I don't want you to die." Sienna covered Su Yu's abdomen, tears streaming down her face. As Su Yu lay dying, his eyes reflected Sienna's crying face. He squeezed out his last bit of energy, caressing her head. "Don't cry. My fiancée. You can't cry." The guests were silent. The tragic battle and parting before death had shaken their souls. The struggle for power in the royal family was cruel. The first prince's face was in extreme pain, and his savage nature was completely triggered. He roared, "I'll kill you!" Whoosh! The first prince attacked with hatred. "Su Yu! I did not misjudge you." The Duke of Xianyu's eyes lit up like never before, and he laughed heartily. After forcing Bai Qixiong back with a palm, the Duke of Xianyu shot out a bright white light from his sleeves. At first glance, it looked like a token, but it was an illusory body formed by vital energy. Whoosh! The bright white light entered the space between Su Yu's brows. When the white light dissipated, a token imprinted with the words, "Holy Meat," appeared on his forehead. The guests gasped, "Holy Meat token! A token to qualify to participate in the Holy Meat? Only with this token can one participate in the Holy Meat. It is rumored that those who possess this token will receive the protection of the Holy King. Before the Holy Meat ends, anyone who dares to lay a hand on him will have to pay a heavy price." 30 years ago, there was an exceptional genius that the ruling royal family feared. Hence, they secretly got rid of him. When the Holy King found out about this, he flew into a rage. The monarch of the royal family, along with his bloodline, were exterminated in an instant, leaving not a single one alive. The royal family was the descendant of the Holy King, but in order to maintain order, they did not hesitate to kill their own descendants. From then on, no one, not even the royal family, dared to lay a hand on the geniuses participating in the holy meat. As expected, the first prince was furious, but the holy meat token caused his expression to change. He stopped in his tracks, not daring to move an inch. If this place was in the wilderness, the first prince would not mind killing him secretly. But the nobles of the royal family could see that once he attacked, he would be looking down on the holy king. In the past, even the monarch of the royal family had been killed, let alone a mere first prince. With eyes filled with fear, the first prince glared at the Duke of Xianyu furiously. You actually gave him the one and only slot." The Duke of Xianyu laughed. Is my son-in-law. For my daughter, he was willing to sacrifice his life. What's the harm in giving him a mere token? It turned out that the Duke of Xianyu had some doubts. He was worried about Su Yu's loyalty to his daughter, hence he did not give the token to him. But just now, in order to save his daughter, Su Yu was willing to sacrifice his life, completely winning the Duke of Xianyu's trust. In the nick of time, the Duke of Xianyu gave the token to him. As long as he had the token, the first prince would not dare to attack him. Moreover, the token contained a mysterious power that could heal Su Yu's injuries. If I can't kill him, do you think I can't kill your daughter? The first prince was filled with anger, brazenly charging towards Xian'er. At this moment, a cold grunt could be heard. Pooh! The first prince spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying. A look of shock appeared on his face. Just a grunt was enough to injure him. How scary was this person? Whoosh! An old and shriveled man stood with his hands behind his back, appearing like a ghost in front of Xian'er. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Kill her? You don't have the right.